Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and call to order this Capital Facilities Corporation meeting for January 18th, 2022. Roll call is taken. 6 board members are present, and Mr. Neely is on the phone. Our first item of business is the election of the 2022 officers. Can I have nominations for president for the Capital Facilities Corporation? I nominate Susan McFarland.
Second.
And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. 7-0. Is that good enough, Dr. Washer, or we need it individually?
You need to roll call, please.
Roll call, please. So, Mr. Neely? Aye. Mr. Heberly?
Aye.
Mr. Knackstead?
Aye.
Mr. Nava?
Aye.
Mr. Porter?
Aye.
Vice President McFarland?
Aye.
And I vote aye. And carries 7-0.
All right, at this point I will take over, correct?
Correct.
We need a nomination and a second for the VP Board of Directors.
And I nominate Courtney Porter.
Second.
And we're going to call for a vote. Mr. Nava?
Aye.
Mr. Knackstead?
Aye.
Mr. Neely?
Aye.
Mr. Freitas?
Aye.
Mr. Heberly?
Aye.
Mr. Porter?
Aye.
And I also vote aye, passing 7-0. I need a nomination for the Secretary of the Board of Directors. I'd like to nominate Gary Knackstead.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Porter second. I'm going to call for a verbal vote again. Mr. Nava?
Aye.
Mr. Knackstead?
Aye.
Mr. Neely?
No.
Thank you. Mr. Porter?
Aye.
Mr. Heberly?
Aye.
Mr. Freitas?
Aye.
Passes 6-1. Chief Financial Officer for the Board of Directors.
Nominate Mr. Leonard Kahn. Second.
And we'll call for the vote. Mr. Freitas?
Aye.
Mr. Heberly?
Aye.
Mr. Porter?
Aye.
Mr. Knackstead?
Aye.
Mr. Nava?
Aye.
Mr. Neely?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. That passes 7-0. And I believe that concludes.
Minutes.
Minutes.
Oh, minutes. I'm sorry. Minutes of the January 19th Capitol Board meeting. Dr. Washer.
Minutes are presented for your approval, Mr. President.
Chairman, I move we approve the minutes of January 19, 2021 Capital Facilities Corporation meeting.
I second.
Great. Any board comments? Public comments? Board vote. Mr. Nava.
Aye.
Mr. Knackstead.
Aye.
Mr. Neely.
Aye.
Mr. Porter.
Aye.
Mr. Heberly.
Aye.
Mr. Freitas.
Aye.
And I also vote aye. It passes 7-0. We're going to adjourn this meeting at, I'm going to have 7:10. We're moving on. I'd like to call the next meeting, the regular meeting, to order. We changed the time to 7:10. There is no public comment on closed session items. We're going to do a roll call. Everyone is present, I believe. We have 6 board members in attendance, 1 remote, Mr. Neely. Both student reps are present. We have Grace from Bear Creek and Brittany from Lodi High. Welcome. Thank you. Would like to stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Knackstead. Can you do that for us?
Salute. Pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody to this meeting. Thank you. We have a couple of losses that have happened over the last few weeks, so I'd like to do a couple of moments of silence. But first I'd like to talk about Mike Lebo. He was the girls water polo coach and swim team coach at McNair for the past 10 years. He passed away on January 13th. Mike was a 2-time water polo All-American and a student at Tokay High School and played collegiately at Fresno State. Mike was and will always be near and dear to the aquatic family of the San Joaquin area. He will be missed greatly. Please join us in extending our condolences to his family and the students and staff at McNair High School. Can we have a moment of silence for Mr. Lebo? Thank you. I'd also like to recognize another sad loss at McNair High School. Melissa Thompson, a campus supervisor, club advisor, coach that passed, and a coach that passed away on January 16th. Mrs. Thompson had been an employee at McNair since the doors opened, very long time. She was a positive influence on students, staff, and the community at large. We also have a moment of silence for her. Thank you. I would also like to extend my condolences to the Lebo family. Having been in water polo, it's a huge loss to our community. And I personally, he touched many of my children through polo, so I would like to extend my condolences also. Mr. Porter.
Yeah, Michael was my first goalie when I first started teaching. I was 22 years old, and he was a senior on our water polo team. We made it all the way to the section finals, and we lost to Davis at the time. He was a tremendous athlete, great man. He stayed within water polo and coached at St. Mary's, and then ended up with McNair. I saw him a lot this year. He always helped me at sections, running the desk. His biggest passion was the Chicago Bears and his family, of course. But he always loved the Bears and talked a lot about them. Loved his daughter tremendously, and she just was recently married, and he was able to attend that. He'll be greatly missed by me. I took this very hard because I was very young at the time, and the age difference, I think I was 22, he was 17, 18, wasn't much. We kind of grew up together in a little bit of ways, but he always had a smile on his face, and every time I left him, I always felt a little bit better. And did a lot for a lot of the kids, as Mrs. McFarland said. People like this are rare, and when we lose them, it makes us a little bit less. Hopefully, it'll be carried on by somebody else in the community, what he did. And as I said, I wish his family and his daughter nothing but the best.
Thank you. We're moving on to report on actions from closed session. There is nothing to report. At this time, I'd like to read a quick message that I wrote. First of all, thank you again for nominating me and having faith in me to be your president for this calendar year. Welcome and thank you for your support you have shown the board during these trying times. I look forward to serving as your president for the upcoming calendar year. Change is inevitable, and we will continue to adapt to change here in Lodi Unified. As the president of the board, I intend to work towards strengthening positive relationships among all sites, district departments, and the board. It is my goal that we will continue to use data and dialogue as we do our work and make difficult decisions. Change is not always the desired goal. It must reflect an evaluation of information available at the time and careful consideration before a decision is made. District decisions or changes in decisions must reflect adaptability to our ever-changing data and environment, not our personal wants or our personal needs. One thing we have all learned through this pandemic is that changes can come at any time and often with all the information we would like to have on hand. This board fully understands that there are times when we will not make everyone happy, clearly. You can be assured that we will take each decision seriously, do our research, give sincere thought, and listen to our community. We will continue to do our best to navigate this current environment with a keen focus on what is best for students. I intend to conduct civil discussions at our board meetings where all can be heard. When information is provided to this board through public comment at meetings, or through emails or phone calls, it has and will continue to be heard by this board. Please be clear that delivering information in a respectful manner is what is heard. Communication that is belittling, hostile, or even threatening is always ineffective. I don't subscribe to bullying as a board member, and I will work to keep students, teachers, administrators, and all staff from being bullied for their personal opinions or for carrying out their responsibilities. It is our charge to educate the students of Lodi Unified and keep the district fiscally responsible. This job will be done with integrity. It is also my goal to conduct our meetings in a positive and productive manner. I encourage each board member, district employee, student, and parent to stay positive and weather the storm created by this global pandemic. Life is difficult. Leadership is more difficult, especially when changes come quickly. We will continue to bridge educational gaps for our students with quality education from our outstanding instructional staff. We will implement curriculum and instructional strategies that challenge students per our mission statements. We appreciate our supportive staff for the help you have all given students on all campuses. We will support our administrative staff in creating a positive school environment where all feel safe and valued. Administrators, you have been working with new playbooks since the pandemic started. The district appreciates your positive can-do spirit and will continue to support you. I especially want to take a minute and thank our classified employees for the integrity they have shown on the front lines for months. We as a district continue to see the work you have done for our community, and we value what you do for all students and all staff. Lastly, we will continue working towards a safe district. Secure the values for all students, employees, and families. This cannot be accomplished without respect for each other. Board meetings are a great place to model behavior we expect from students in classrooms. As we work together as a community, we need to show our students what respect looks and sounds like. The world is not a perfect place, and neither is Lodi Unified. We are all human. As a board, we are here to serve and will continue to work to meet each and every challenge. Let us all work together and have a healthy 2022. So with that, let's continue our meeting.
President McFarland,
Yes,
very nice goals for 2022.
let's just be nice.
Appreciate the notes. Also, it appears at our last meeting, I credited you with being the second president in Lodi Unified District. I obviously misspoke. There's been numerous women, and Johnson comes to mind, who has been president of Lodi Unified. But you are obviously the second president during my tenure on the Lodi Unified.
So you're saying I'm not that special? You make me feel special for no reason.
You're even more special.
Questioning your
because-
presidency right now, Mr. Freitas.
Okay, but anyway, congratulations
Thank you.
on your presidency, and I look forward to accomplishing your goals this year.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to public hearings. We're going to declare public hearings open. LPPA reopeners for the 21-22 year, Mr. McKilligan.
Just a routine public hearing.
Thank you. Any board comments? Any public comments? Student comments? Oh, declare public hearing closed. We're going to open another one. LEA, I'm just going to use abbreviations. Reopeners for the 21-22 year, Mr. McKilligan. Same. Appreciate it. Board comments. Public comments? Student reps? No. Public hearing is now closed. Mr. Young, he's already up and moving. You have something exciting for us regarding Parklane's Hope?
Yeah, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer, the connections that we have between students and staff is so critical, having returned from distance learning. And this evening, I'm excited to share with you not only Principal Darchand, but also Armina Zarif, the Vice Principal, and 3 amazing students who aren't at all nervous to come up here and share. So with that, hopefully, Valerie, do we happen to have the video slides that we could pull up? No? Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to invite Ms. Dara Chun to come up, and she's going to introduce her students who are going to spotlight an amazing event and week that they shared together at Parklane Elementary School.
Good evening, President McFarland, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. I'm Dara Chun, principal at Parklane. So I'm sorry that we're not able to see the video. So this year, the staff nominate their peers to represent the PBIS team. They consist of teachers and support staff, as well as our CLA, which means our community liaison assistant, and our mental health clinician. So based on our AVID self-assessment tool, one of our goals for this year was to increase community outreach to promote a culture of college and career readiness and getting students and staff involved. After determining our goal, we came up with our action plan, and that was to plan our first annual homecoming event. And I was going to say what you're seeing on the video, but you're not seeing that. So this took place back in October. So I'm going to walk you through our homecoming week. Monday was our school pride day, and as part of that, we announced our student council winner who just finished campaigning the week before. And then for Tuesday was our multicultural fall holiday. We had our kinder through third grade parade. Wednesday was our career day. Thursday was royalty court day. Students dressed as kings and queens with little crowns. So even if they didn't have crowns, they had crowns from Burger King. It was so cute. And then Friday was our game day, sports day, which was staff versus students. And it was so amazing. Some of these students would come up to me. I guess I'm bragging about myself. They said, "Ms. Chun, you were the MVP today." And then on that last video, you'll see me like shooting the hoop. So yes, I was part of the basketball team on that Friday. And during that week, we noticed that there were rarely any student discipline because students were really excited and looking forward to the activities. And that week, we rarely had any students up in the office, so we need to plan more activities. So now, I would like to introduce you to our student council members here. And they can tell you more about what they have planned for.
Good evening, President McFarland and members of the board and Dr. Washer. My name is Diora and I am Student Council Vice President. This year, in order to better represent all students at Parklane, we voted to expand our election to include representatives from 3rd and 4th grades, as well as 5th and 6th grades. We feel will give more input to what all students want and will also shape future upper grade student leaders. During our first 2 quarters, the Student Council has organized and ran a fundraising candygram sale. Our goal was to raise $75 by selling 300 candygrams. Our students knocked it out of the park by selling 523 and raising over $130 for our student body. Thank you.
Good evening, President McFarland and members of the board and Dr. Washer. My name is Chris and I'm Student Council's treasurer. Student Council has organized 2 spirit weeks where students showed their school and class spirit by dressing up as a superhero, wore crazy hats, and their warmest winter gear. Student council officers took the responsibility of calculating winning classes and announcing results. Moving into the new quarter, we have begun planning for our biggest fundraiser of the year, our friendship dance. The last time we were able to hold this event, it raised over $500.
Good evening, President McFarland, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. My name is Isabel, and I am Student Council's historian. Student Council has set a goal of beating this total. We will be selling items such as food, water bottles, and glow sticks, with nothing costing more than $1. Everyone enjoys the music, the lights, and of course our favorite DJ, Miss Chun. It's a great time to have fun with friends and to raise money to provide even more fun activities at Parklane for Parklane students to get involved with at school. This year, the Student Council is also taking over the school yearbook. It will mark the first time students will be creating a yearbook. We are very excited for this opportunity to show how our student leaders can shine. Thank you.
Members of the board, do you have any questions that you would like to ask of these students?
I'd like to ask the grade that your students are in.
I'm in 5th grade.
Fifth?
Wow.
I'm also in 5th grade.
I'm in the 6th grade.
Thank you all. I just wanted to let you know you did a very fine job. It's not easy getting up in public, and you did well. Thank you for your presentation.
Any other comments from the board?
President McFarland.
Yes.
Principal Chun, so nice to see you. I remember when you were my vice principal at Westwood, and no surprise that there would be an excellent presentation and the excellent job that you're doing at Parkland. Thank you for bringing your students to us, and thank you for all the wonderful things you're doing in tonight's presentation.
Thank you, and come visit us when you get a chance.
You've got it, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Next up, Dr. Washer, is Ronald McNair's theater program in Elkhorn's Chess Club.
Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board. This is a special highlight because these programs were in EdSource magazine, which you may have noticed and read. That is a widely spread publication on educational issues throughout the state. The highlight included Robert Solly and how we're working with our funds to provide extra activities for kids after school. And see if we have anybody from those programs here. They are not present, but we will extend our gratitude to them and appreciation for the efforts in creating fun and exciting and engaging activities for students to keep them happy about being at school.
Thank you, Dr. Washer. Mr. Neely is remote, and he has asked to move his CSBA delegate assembly meeting report to our next meeting, if that is possible. I don't need to. Dr. Washer, you can just move that, correct?
I'm sorry, where is his report?
It's under spotlight.
It's under spotlight.
Oh, okay. It's not, you're not yet.
Yeah.
We will table it to, yeah,
There it is.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Next up is Lori. I think I see you out there. Lori Sleece. She's going to recognize Melissa Shepard for her accomplishment of becoming a national board certified teacher. How exciting.
Very exciting.
Thank you.
So, good evening, Dr. Washer and President McFarland and members of the board. Thank you for having us here tonight. My name is Lori Selez. I'm a national board certified teacher in Lodi, facilitator of the network in this area, and policy advocate for National Board in California. I'm also a 3rd grade teacher at Ansel Adams. I'm here to recognize Melissa Shepard on her certification and present her with her National Board pin. National Board certification is considered the highest level of certification a teacher can achieve. It is commonly known as a gold standard. There's more than a decade of research to support that there is a significant and measurable positive impact that board certification has on student achievement, which is why we're all here. Teacher quality and teacher retention. The process of board certification is unlike any other professional development or graduate level work. It is achieved through a grueling assessment process designed to measure what accomplished educators should know and should be able to do. It requires that educators demonstrate how their activities, both inside the classroom with the students and outside the classroom in your professional activities, strengthen student performance and contribute to student achievement. 91% of all teachers that engage with National Board Standards report that it has a direct impact on their instructional practices. These shifts that Melissa's done include adjusting lesson plan to meet the needs of individual students, using data in new ways to assess student progress and learning goals, and deepen her content knowledge of, as well as engaging with parents, community members, and collaborating with colleagues. There's 25 areas in which a teacher may certify, each tailored to the specific assignment of the educator. Melissa certified in the area of early childhood generalist. This encompasses all subjects and focuses on students ages 3 to 8. Melissa's taught a total of 25 years. In Lodi, she's taught at Lawrence and Larson Elementary, and currently is a second grade teacher at Larson. She has dedicated hundreds of hours toward this goal, and she serves as an inspiration to other teachers. It's my honor to congratulate Melissa Shepard and present her with this pin. So Melissa Shepard, National Board Certified Teacher.
I'm smiling, I don't know if you can tell that. Thank you, it's an honor to be here tonight. Good evening, President McFarland, Dr. Washer, members of the board. I appreciate you having me here tonight. It's been a long journey, and one I could not have accomplished without the support of many people, including Lori, my national board cohort that we met over the past many years, once a week, whenever there was a holiday, weekends, we went away and worked on our papers. It's been a lot of work, and my family. I strongly believe that we as educators have a duty to never stop learning and improving our practice. When I began this journey, I was looking for a way to challenge myself in a meaningful way. I found the process of certification to be the most difficult accomplishment I have ever earned in my teaching career, but also the most worthwhile. While working on my certification, I had to examine my teaching practice, evaluate data on my students, their families, and my school from multiple sources, show evidence of it all, manage, monitor, and differentiate, and ensure my students are all given equitable learning experiences. As Lori said, this is my 25th year of teaching, and I'm sure you can imagine I participated in quite a bit of staff development over the years. However, this has by far been the most relevant and impactful professional development I've ever completed. I'm looking forward to encouraging and supporting other teachers who are involved in this process as well. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you tonight.
Don't go anywhere just yet.
Yeah, Mrs. Shepard, I looked into this when I was teaching, and I just found it too daunting. I couldn't do it. The little boy in me punted on it right away. For you to achieve this, I just think it's unbelievable. The amount of time that you put in, I can only imagine. Could you share with us some of the things that you had to do in terms of lesson planning, evaluation, the test,
Yes.
how many hours and so forth you put into this? And then I'd also like you to finish up with, what is Lodi Unified giving you now that you've achieved this level of competence? I know masters get so much, doctorate gets so much. I'm curious to what we do, because I don't know.
Okay, I'm happy to answer those. There's 4 components in order to become a National Board Certified Teacher. One component, as you mentioned, is the test, and testing on anything from preschool, because my certification is generalist, which goes from 3-year-olds to 8-year-olds. Luckily, my degree was in child development, although it's been a while, so that did help. So the test is one component. Another component was on differentiating in my classroom, and I did that on several students in my classroom and showing how I differentiated for them in the area of writing, and how they started and how they were at the end of 8 weeks. It's a daunting process, mostly because we as teachers sort of, after this much time, we do things because we know what we need to do. But when you're writing the papers for the National Board certification, you have to always show your evidence. I did this because of this. And so putting that into words and finding that evidence that you know you're doing, but being able to describe it so that someone who's never been in your classroom can visualize that is very daunting. The third component is videotaping yourself and analyzing that. And the fourth one is looking at all sorts of data, making a professional development plan for yourself. I did a unit on math, looking where my students were at the beginning and how to move them to where I needed them to be. And as far as your second question, as of a few years ago in Lodi, there's a stipend for being a national board teacher. The state of California also is starting this year for the next 5 years to not only help teachers that are starting this process pay for their components, but also those of us that have certified a stipend from the state of California for at least the next 5 years.
Outstanding. I have to finish that you're an inspiration, and your 25 years is incredible, and I love that you found a passion for education, and I admire you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Wait, come back real quick. I just want to congratulate you. After 25 years and wanting to do more or dig deeper into your craft, that's impressive, because I think about things that I have put effort into for 25 years, raising a family, working, having a business, marriage, and you think, do I really want to dig that deep, and do I really love what I do? And that's impressive that you took time away from your family, and that they probably understood most times. So congratulations to you to dig deeper and give more back after 25 years. I think that to me is inspiring. I mean, 25 years and to want more and to give more after that amount of time, that's impressive. So I appreciate you not like phoning it in, so to speak, but digging deeper and giving. So congratulations to Lodi Unified for getting you. Thank you.
Is your husband a teacher too?
Ah, yes.
My husband was a teacher. He's a principal now.
Oh, and is he nationally certified?
He's not.
Okay, so then he gets the kudos, and he makes the dinner and everything else.
One of my children out of the four is here. My daughter is here, and she's also a teacher, not for Lodi Unified, but I'm trying to get her to come over. So
There
we'll
you
see.
go.
There you go.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Washer.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'll be brief. We have a full agenda. Just wanted to give you an update on our return from winter break. Just very thankful for the folks that we have at the district office, in our departments, and at the school sites. It's been challenging, to say the least, but everyone has stepped up to try to help each other and make things the best possible for kids. I want to give a special thanks to Business Services, Mr. Khan and his staff, Nutrition Services, M&O, the warehouse. When we got the student test kits very late, it was too late to hand them out before the break, which was the original intent. But we did have a window of time, and we decided to take advantage of that short window of time to get as many out as possible to our students before they returned from winter break. And because of the dedication of our staff and their willingness and can-do attitude, we were able to distribute over 8,000, maybe close to 9,000 student test kits in those two window opportunities that we had before break. I want to thank the site administrators also for coming back early from their break to help with those efforts. Just really appreciate our Nutrition Services and M&O staff and warehouse for making that happen. That was an incredible effort. Our folks at the site continue to do all they can to take care of what needs to be done for students. We have a lot of absences in all different types of positions, but as you know, when teachers are absent and we don't have subs, that becomes very challenging, but they are doing a fantastic job. Our administrators are covering, other teachers are covering, they're doing all they can to keep kids safe and to keep learning going. So thank you so much to our site folks for making sure that they're taking care of kids. It's been very challenging, as you've seen our numbers. You've gotten the emails as well on how many reported cases on a school facility, whether it's a student, staff member, or visitor, but the numbers are pretty high for this month. The number of absences are a little better, or unfilled teacher absences are a little better today than they have been the days previously or previous week, but they're still pretty high. So folks are just doing an incredible job. I know they're getting tired and frustrated, and hopefully this will settle down pretty quickly.
Thank you very much. I also want to comment, I had stopped by a couple of schools to see how the tests were being handed out, and they were machines. Kudos to your staff, amazing. And for coming in before school started, and the principals. Thank you to all you have done on your sites, because that was one more thing on your plate. That's that no playbook and reeling. So thank you for both of those things. Student reps, are you ready to give your synopsis? Who wants to go first?
I'll go ahead.
Great.
Ms. McFarland, presidents of the members of the board, and Dr. Washer. So the new campus is open and classes are still moving in. It's really nice. We all love it. And tomorrow we're holding having a fundraiser role of winter sports. They're gathering together with basketball boys. We're raising funds for families of children undergoing pediatric cancer treatment at UC Davis. And Good Day Sacramento is actually coming into school tomorrow morning to highlight the event. We'll be having like a small rally just to support. And then we'll be having our game against Tokay on this Friday night. And both schools are encouraged to wear gold, again in support. So that's going on this week. And next week we'll be having Winterfest. The Winterfest course selections are done and they'll be announced this Friday, I believe. So we're all excited for that too. We will be holding a night rally after a few years that's been done. That will be on Thursday at the Milas Gym, so it will be indoor once again. And yeah, we're just all excited for everything that's coming ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, Brittany. Any board comments? Quiet. Okay, Grace, you're up. And real quick, that was Lodi High, and now we're on to Bear Creek. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Life is good at Bear Creek right now. People are in a really good mood today after the 3-day weekend, and many clubs are currently preparing for our international rally, which will take place on March 4th. We will be having our first club meeting with all the club councils and their presidents this Friday, just catching them up on what they need to do for the International Carnival and the International Rally, which is our big event this quarter. And our track team just started conditioning, but they're currently on hold due to COVID. So I would just like to thank all of the athletes for their patience during this time as they have run-ins with COVID and all of those sorts of things, but they're still pushing through. Our girls soccer is actually first in their league right now, so congratulations to them. Good job. And student government was planning to have a surprise faculty brunch for staff tomorrow during their CPT meeting. However, because we will be having training for student leaders for a program that is coming to our school, we might have to postpone. Our school is participating in the Breaking Down the Walls program this Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, where student leaders will be leading other students participating in collaborative activities and just sharing our stories and connecting and breaking down the walls. And other than that, speech and debate will be doing presentations in classes tomorrow to recruit some kids. And we'll have Valentine's grounds and International Spirit Week, and we have a lot going on this quarter. So that's what's happening at Bear Creek right now. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Comments from the board?
President McFarland.
Yes.
Brittany, you were telling us, not a quorum of us, but some of us, that you were in the new classrooms at Lodi?
Yeah, so we're still kind of navigating around because the whole school kind of looks the same, but we have upper and lower levels, and all the buildings did a really good job labeling like the different buildings like A, B, C, and D and the room numbers. So that's actually really helpful because at the other building, all the numbers are kind of just off. It's like 1 and then it's like 20. So the new building, the numbers are really useful. And yeah, we're all enjoying it. Teachers are loving it. They have like more whiteboard space. They can slide off and on with their Promethean board and everything. Some classrooms are still switching over slowly, but we're all getting there. So good so far.
And do you have classrooms on the ground and on the upper floor? Or classes?
Yeah, so for most students, most of the classrooms switched over to the new buildings, but some classrooms like ag or mechanics, ceramics, those are staying in the old ones for now.
I see. In the new buildings, do you have a preference, the upstairs or downstairs? Or?
No. Well, upstairs if you get a view. Other than that, it's alright.
Very good.
Yep, thank you.
Hey, Gretchen, you're a performer. Did you perform over the holidays? Or?
Yeah, so the show that I was in actually closed over, I think in like middle of December, it closed, and I'm currently in rehearsal for a concert that I'll be part of at the end of January, so that's what my life is looking like right now. Other than that, I'm just preparing for college auditions.
We're going to get backseat passes for that concert, of course, right?
Yes, of course.
Well, we'll pick them up at will call. How's the college search going?
It's going pretty well. I've got an audition at Boston Conservatory for their musical theater program, so fingers crossed that that goes well. Other than that, I have a couple auditions at a couple other schools. That's very exciting, and I'm just waiting to hear back from them.
Ready?
Yeah, just heard back from Sac State so far, so that's exciting. But for the rest, still waiting to hear back from them. Just right now, just enjoying my senior year and everything that's ahead of it.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for those wonderful reports. We really appreciate them.
Thank you, Mr. Frakes.
Yeah,
Oh, we've got two. Mr. Connexton. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to say, just listening to you folks talk, life seems like it's kind of sort of back to normal on campuses, and so I want to just thank you for being here and bring some positive comments back to the board. So keep it up.
Yeah, we'll keep the positive comments whenever we can.
Okay, cool.
Love it. Mr. Nava.
Thank you. Brittany, you must be excited, and your whole student body must be excited for the new buildings at Lodi High. They're state of the arts. My gosh, we took a tour. Some of the board members went on a tour there, and I was very impressed. As a matter of fact, as I kind of reminisce, I would really like to teach in one of these classes. Before that, I said I would like to be a student in one of these classes because they're so nice, and it seems like the learning situation and the delivery from the teacher is so close and friendly, and you people will have a real good experience in those classrooms. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's a new environment, and yeah, we're all enjoying it, same as teachers and staff.
Perfect. Grace, I heard some real good compliments on that production and the Christmas at the Civic Theater.
Oh,
My
thank
gosh,
you so
I heard
much.
from the director was Joe Smith, who is the pro at Swenson Golf Course. And I see him often over there. And I couldn't remember your name, but I said, we had a young lady from Berkeley. Grace! You go right away. I said, yes! Yes.
Yeah.
Congratulations, and are you going to participate in the theater anymore in this season?
I'm hoping to. There's a play coming up, and there'll be another musical around June, July. That'll be when performances are. So I'm keeping my eye out, and I'm just waiting to see if I get casted or not. And yeah, I'm just keeping my eye out. Yeah.
Very good. Congratulations. I think there are great things going over at Bear Creek. I have a granddaughter that goes there, and I take her to school in the morning, and before she gets out of my car, she puts a mask on. You know, and I said, well, you don't have to wear the mask outside. She says, I am used to this mask. So she is, and I don't think she ever takes it off, but I understand, and I asked her about her classes, and he says, everybody is so nice, and they wear their masks, and we're learning a lot at Bear Creek, and she loves the campus. Thank you.
The campus is very pretty, yes, I agree. I love Bear Creek's campus.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. Thanks to both of you. We're going to move on to public comment. Before we start, I want to let everybody know we have 1, 2, 3. I have 6 comments sheets that were filled out complete. I have 2 that were not complete. So in order to speak, just so we're clear, if you just put your name and nothing else, we need to have address, topic, and the information filled out, and it's not because I want to swing by your house. It's basically for, I'm going to say Valerie in this case. We put these into our minutes and things, and so when someone's speaking and there's a question or a comment, we want to be able to get back to you if there's additional information. And under topic, it's not that we're trying to hammer you into a specific topic. We're trying to find out legally if we can let you speak during public or if it's regarding a specific action item or it fits into a different part of the meeting. So, having said that, I have a couple that are sitting over here. If you didn't fill them out, I'm going to give them back to Chelsea. If you'd like to speak, we'd love to have you at the end. We have 20 minutes allotted. Reese, I think yours is okay.
Mine is okay?
Yeah, yours is okay. You have the topics down, so you're good.
Okay, great.
And so we're gonna stick to the 20 minutes tonight. And so we're gonna open up with Lana Gentry. And Lana, while you're making your way up, the next person up will be Mike Keberly. I'm going to read the public statement just so we're moving time a little closer. We have a new public speaker timer. The light will stay solid green for the first 1 to 2 minutes. At 2 minutes, it will start to flash green. At 2.5 minutes, it will turn orange. At the 3 minutes, it will beep and turn red when time is up. So review, solid green, 1 to 2 minutes left. Flashing green, 1 minute left. At orange, you have 30 seconds. Red, it will beep and your time is up. We ready?
Ready.
I feel like we're playing a game. Can you get it all in? Welcome, Lana.
I've got it. And if you're frightened, there's a color-coded list.
I have to tell you, if I had to look at a light and try to get my point across, I would lose my, it would be very difficult.
We're good.
So we're going to do our best shot. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, Dr. Washer, Mrs. McFarland, and members of the school board. I'm hoping to cover 2 topics here, but I've written it, so I should go fast. The first one is about learning loss in our district and some of the additional funds and things that have been put out for different programs. And so I know that a lot of COVID money has been received. And if you do not know, credit recovery is it's after school at the high school from 2:30 to 5 p.m. And this is to help students who failed classes and they need them for graduation. And a whole lot of them failed a lot of classes last year. So they're in there. We actually have a waiting list, but not enough room. And so we're worried about graduation. But when substitute pay went up, and if you're subbing on your prep went up, credit recovery wages didn't go up for those teachers who were there after school for 2.5 hours, helping kids get their credits to graduate from high school. And so I would like that to be considered, that was a group that I think was kind of passed by. So there's the first topic. The second one is about our COVID sick leave days that went out ended on September 30th. Many of the districts around us extended them and using the COVID money that you have received. And because without that, teachers are now needing to use their own personal sick leave. There was a teacher in my department who got COVID, and she had her 2 shots, she got COVID, she was out for 10 days. We get 10 days a year. There they were, her 10 days were gone. And I was like, oh no, they're covered. Well, I got sick in September, she did in October. If a teacher uses up all their sick days, and often women have, because we used them up to have babies, etc., you then go differential pay, meaning the cost of paying the substitute is taken out of my daily wage. Well, the price of substitutes, they're getting paid more, meaning more money is taken out of our daily pay to pay for the substitute, and then you get what's left over. Also, if you go over your sick days, it'll affect your retirement. And so I went over way back when my children were little, I went over like by 3 days, so I lost the money. But the bigger thing is when I checked at STRS and I see that I don't have a full year, I'm like at 24 point whatever. And so that is a concern. And so if we want our teachers to take their COVID tests and stay at home while they're while they're positive, we need that COVID sick pay, those sick days left. I know our district has millions of dollars, and I hope that we can put teachers as a priority because we're going to have teachers that are going to be forced economically to go to work. So that's my request, to please do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynn, I appreciate it. Shirley. The other Mr. Heatherly.
The other. Good evening, Dr. Washer, Sue McFarland, members of the board. I'm here tonight because I actually was trying to track down who exactly to talk to, and in my search and journey, I kept getting the roundabout and had no idea who to bring this issue up to, so here I am this evening. So I found out last month that Bear Creek High School will be losing 4.4 FTEs this year, despite us having a higher projected number this upcoming year than we did last year. So for example, our projected numbers for 21-22 was 1,957. I should have brought my glasses tonight, critical error there. And the projected numbers for 2022 to 23 is 1987. More students, less teachers. I was recently informed that we will be losing an FTE in science. So that means 5 sections of science classes will be no longer available for our students to take, of which the list goes as I'll have to choose which 5 to cut: AP Physics, AP Environmental Science, AP Biology, AP Chemistry, and Anatomy Physiology, since those are our electives and we can't cut core because those are graduation requirements. It puts myself in a pretty horrible situation where I have to tell, I don't know, about 140, 150 kids, sorry, you don't get to take science this year. I really urge whoever the person is that made this decision to drastically reconsider this position. This would be absolutely detrimental to my department. And just as a side note, I looked up their most recent numbers because I track this kind of stuff because I'm a little bit of a numbers nerd. According to the Bureau of Labor, STEM occupations are projected to grow 2 times faster than the total for all occupations over the next decade. And those numbers are from 2019 to 2029. We have an obligation to prepare our students for career and college readiness. STEM is the future, and if we are going to cut our high-level science classes, we are not going to be fulfilling our students' needs. So that is my piece. Thank you for listening.
Lisa Wilkins. Welcome, Lisa. And then Reese Mahoney, you're up after Lisa.
Dr. Washer, President McFarland, members of the board. I just kind of want to reiterate what my colleague Lana Gentry said about leave, and I don't want to just emphasize it for teachers. So I'm also a numbers nerd, science teacher, and last week I saw that for both teachers and staff, we started out the week with 20% of our teachers gone, 20% of our support staff out, and about 20% of our students out. Over the week, it grew to 25% students, same amount of teachers and staff out through last week. As a matter of fact, on Friday, out of a class of 27, in my first period, I had 9 students. Today, in my 6th period class, well, actually, in my first period class, I only had 11 out of 27, and today I had 13 out of 29 in my 6th period class, excuse me. So COVID is hitting hard, but it's also hitting our classified staff. And even though I'm not a member of that bargaining group, if we do not have people to drive the buses, serve the kids lunch, handle attendance, especially with contact tracing, it really puts a cog in the wheel of the school. Last week, every day during my prep, I subbed. Every day last week, I subbed. And fortunately, I did not have to do it today, but always when I'm called, I'll do it because I know I'm one of the few people who will take a math class and actually be able to teach math besides teaching science. So I just want to emphasize the point that for teachers, if we go over our 10 allotted days, and this has happened to me because I was a single parent, and if you have a sick kid, you have to stay home, it does affect your retirement. I have 16 years of teaching, but I only have 15.7 years of retirement because of the time I had to take off to deal with health issues with my son. Our classified staff, they don't have, a lot of them get paid hourly. If we don't give them the sick days, they not only are staying out because they're sick, they're staying out, they're not getting paid, and that really affects them as well. We don't want these people, especially if they work in the cafeteria, if they're bus riding, things like that, we don't have student contact, we don't want them coming into school. So please consider extending not only that COVID sick leave, not only for teachers, but also to our classified brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Reese. And next up would be Emily Mahoney.
She wasn't allowed in, so
Okay.
someone else is going to say her speech.
Before you start, I just want to let, somebody else is going to read hers after you?
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
later. Sorry.
Perfect. Thank you.
It's my privilege to hold the board accountable, so if this hurts, I'm sorry. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. You're playing the biggest part in the brainwashing of the next generation. Too many times have I seen children wearing masks while their parents do not. It is because of the constant intimidation that these children endure, including today when I saw 3 cops standing at the doorway, not letting anybody in unless they were wearing a mask. Make them believe that they are the problem, that they are no longer safe indoors without a mask, and that they can physically stop this COVID-19. Webster's dictionary defines hypocrite as a person who acts in contradiction to his or her stated beliefs or feelings. I can confidently say that most of you are hypocrites. Lord knows you have your private meetings without masks on your faces, and then you come out here with your costumes to play a part. Just last night, Ron Freitas was at a meeting in a room full of people without a mask saying how he stands for victims of abuse and violence. When students and employees are being kicked out of schools, denied their proper education and income for not complying to these mandates. As a district attorney, Mr. Freitas, you are failing in knowing the difference between a statement made by the governor and an actual law. There are no education codes that reference any health policies that this district is implementing. It was recommended on the 15th of November that my wife, Emily Mahoney, be terminated, simply because she wasn't wearing a piece of tissue paper over her face, her nose and mouth. You should have been made aware of this back then, but I would like to remind you. The board is essentially saying that she has been putting her students in danger simply by being in the same room as these students. If this was such an egregious offense, her superiors would have had her escorted off the campus the first day that she was seen without a face covering. She could very well be fired for not following a directive, which frankly doesn't have the legs to stand on. I am sickened by the actions and lack of action from this board. You say you have a fiduciary responsibility to this district, and yet you're willing to waste the district's time and resources on a legal hearing. Last time I checked, lawyers are not working for free, and I doubt that the money is coming out of your wallets. I say again, if you are not part of the solution, then you are part of the problem. And if this truly bothers you, then you should resign. Thank you.
Thank you, Reese. Mr. Hicks. And then after Mr. Hicks, we have Alex.
Good evening, board. It's getting kind of monotonous coming up here, not getting anything. Sent you an email with a lot of information in it. Talked last time about a Cato Institute 61-page report that said masks are not effective. Still nothing. In my email to you, I asked, I believe you should take a stand against enforcing the mandates because it's unfair that the state puts you in this position. I sent you the email of the case in San Diego where the judge said, even though she agreed with the emergency authority of Newsom, she said, the state's guidance for testing and quarantine are only recommendations, not requirements. She went on to say, the state's mask rules do not order schools to send students home for not masking. I hope we're not still doing that. Are we still doing that?
Yes.
That's unfortunate. That's not what the state rules are. The rules leave it up to the districts to decide how to enforce the mask mandates. You guys have to decide. Quit going by what the state says. They don't know what your community wants. President McFarland, I appreciate your opening comments that you want us to be respectful for you. And I think it's disrespectful when we time and time again come to this board, ask you to tell us where you're at. Take a vote. Let us see you raise your hands. Who's for mask mandates? Who's for vaccine mandates? We walk out of here, we have no idea. We're wasting our time, we're wasting your time. We just need to know where you stand. That way we can do what we need to do. And you guys can do what you need to do. As far as, I understand, I guess, that they're requiring that the mask will be worn through February 15th. I still don't agree with it. And like Reese mentioned, these children are getting indoctrinated by these masks. You even mentioned it. They don't even know they're wearing them anymore. This is a sad state of affairs, gentlemen and ladies. This has got to stop, or we're going to just continue to lose our freedoms. And I'm asking you, please, show us respect so we don't have to keep coming back here. Show us where you stand with our community, because you're causing our community to pit against each other here. Mask versus non-mask, mandate, vaccine versus non-vaccine. Everybody should have a choice. If you want to do mask, do your mask. If you want to do a vaccine, do it. But let's not be dividing ourselves, losing our freedoms over stupid things like this. It's nonsense. You all know it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it would appear, Alex, that our buzzer seems to be having a discrepancy, so Valerie's going to alert us on time, correct?
It's going for you.
Don't worry, I'm in Toastmasters. Well, you know, Toastmasters, we're prepared for this. So my name is Alex Olferis, actually a substitute teacher. And this is a case right now. I mean, we're living in the clown world, basically. But the doctrine of lesser magistrates declares that when a superior or higher civil authority makes unjust, immoral laws or decrees, a lesser or lower ranking civil authority has both a right and duty to refuse obedience to that superior authority. If necessary, the lesser authorities even have the right and obligation to actively resist the superior authority. And we're talking regarding the ridiculous mask mandate. You have the authority, but yet you are choosing to do this. Whose side are you on? What side of history will you be on? You have to really ask yourselves about that, because I've been hammering away and away, and then yet we're hypocrites teaching students in our schools about freedom, about the land of the free of America, and how, you know, certain nations gain freedom and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's how they gain freedom. It started in Europe, came in America. Of course, it started in America, but we're not following that. The other thing is, emails have come out. CDC records. Guess what, guys? The teacher unions gave guidance on COVID restrictions. These are emails, and let me read you a little bit. Judicial Watch received 12 pages of records showing the American Federation of Teachers and the National Education Association influence of Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Director and the White House with our own with their own embargoed vaccine research as well as school reopening policy. This came out of the Freedom of Information Act. Yeah, we have FOIA requests. We got the emails. It's not really science anymore, guys. And Fauci is a criminal. You know that. There's emails uncovered. He's had contact with the Wuhan Institute and all that kind of stuff. It's all coming out, folks. And Dr. Malone even came out, the inventor of the mRNA vaccine, warning this is not a good thing. And what did he say? We are facing a mass formation psychosis. You repeat a lie often, people will believe the lie. That's what happened to Nazi Germany in the 1930s. And then you wonder why the Holocaust happened. Because they repeated the lie over and over. Millions were killed in that process. And history will not repeat itself.
Time. Thank you. Okay, we have about 2 minutes left, so Ashley, would you like to get up and use the remaining of the time?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I am speaking on behalf of Emily, who was not permitted to enter. And just imagine I'm sweeter, smaller, cuter. On November 15th, I was put on unpaid leave by the district. Prior to that date, I was working as a paraeducator for severely handicapped preschool students. I have spoken at previous board meetings several times updating the public about my current state with Lodi USD. I was scheduled a remote virtual hearing that will take place next Thursday on the 27th for anyone interested. I will more than likely be wrongfully terminated. At this time, I would like the board, personnel, staff, and anyone else who is involved in decision-making when it comes to these unconstitutional mandates. Your actions are being carefully documented by several people. Your lack of consistency, the disparate treatment and harassment constantly happening are being documented. Your lack of response to countless emails from your very concerned staff and parents of the children you serve is being documented. Your lack of answers to important questions being asked by people who matter is being documented. As I already mentioned, my hearing is next week and I have received zero response or support from any of you about my situation. You are all further incriminating yourselves by putting me on unpaid leave, which again violates California Code 87623. As an employee of this district, I am incredibly disappointed in every one of you. I have seen no action taken from any one of you that shows you actually do care about your staff who you choose to hire. Lodi USD's goal or mission is to educate students for success. Do you really believe firing staff because they have a legitimate reason for not following a recommendation, which is not a law, by the California Department of Public Health is helping students of that classroom succeed in any way? Do you ever stop and make the connection of why there are such horrible staff shortages in this district? I am still in touch with my Lodi Unified coworkers and can tell you from my conversations with them and sharing how you have all
I'm sorry, we've hit the 3 minutes.
Oh, you can't extend it. It was 2 minutes.
I'm sorry, we gave
Can we just go 21 minutes?
Pardon, we gave actually the full 3 minutes.
Oh, you did?
Thank you
Okay.
very much. If you'd like to email that to the board, we would love to do the rest of it. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to consent agenda A, routine business. Board, is there anything that you would like to pull? Public, is there any items that need to be pulled?
A11,
A11,
A17,
A17,
and A2.
and A2. So review A2, A11, and A17?
Yes.
Correct. I'd like to entertain a
Madam
motion.
Chairman, I move we approve the rest of routine agenda A.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Khan.
President McFarland, if it pleases the board, I'd like to just pull A9, 10, 11, 15, 16, and 17 for a brief comment.
So you want to pull 9, 10, 11,
15, 16, and 17.
15, 16, and 17.
Yes.
Okay, so your motion will include to approve 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 13, 14, and 18? Is that correct,
That's
Mr. Nava?
correct.
And the second, Mr.?
That's correct.
That is correct. Okay. No board comment? We're ready. Student vote.
Aye. Aye.
Great. Are we able to vote electronically? Okay. Mine's not coming up. It says it's under discussion. Oh, it's not happy. Thank you. And with a vote of 7-0, those passed. So let's start with item, let's do item A2. I guess, should we go through, do you want to do them in order? Okay, A2. Michelle, are you up?
Good evening, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. I have a question on, and I apologize, disrupted in being able to get the question answered before the board meeting. On Fund 12, and I don't know if I can pull it up. The Child Development Fund says to establish Head Start preschool budget to provide 2 FTE typist clerks, 1 FTE typist clerk, typist clerk 2, and a typist clerk 3, and a 1.5 FTE community liaison in accordance with the funding authorization. With the Head Start budget, I understand that there are great restrictions around how the money is spent. We would like to see, it's hard to see more administrative costs and FTEs being implemented when we're not increasing the salary for our Head Start and state preschool at a higher wage in the budget. So I don't know the reason or rationale as to why the additional, so much more additional staff on that side when we've been working to get our Head Start and state preschool teachers on a better salary. If the funding has changed, we certainly hope to see that changed in the future. But it seems like an awful lot of additional staff when we're being told we don't have enough kids to fill all the classes there. So
I think
kind of a point of interest, but why more at that level at this point in time for administrative?
Right. I think what we have here is probably a need for a larger discussion. So I don't know that if Mr. Khan could actually answer those questions in a concise format. I would request maybe that we leave that in the form of a comment and then let Mr. Khan get back to you to answer that in maybe a broader stroke way. Is that acceptable to you?
That is, and I think my Head Start teachers would appreciate knowing the reason why more administration. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Any other comments from the board on?
Second.
We're moving to approve in second. Call for the vote. Student. Oh, Mr. Nava motioned and Mr. Kinnock second. Student reps.
Aye.
Aye. Great. It's not going to come back again. Yes. And A2 passes 7-0. And the next one up, I believe we're going to go A9.
Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. I pulled a 9, 16, excuse me, a 9, 10, 11, 15, 16, and 17. Would the board mind if I just made one general comment about all of them? These are really two pieces of 3 different things. They are your Tokay High School gymnasium, your Tokay High School classroom, and your Needham classroom. The 2 items are your notice of completion and your final change order on these construction projects. My comment, and also thanks to the facilities team in these 3 items, is a little over $1.75 million of unused budget. That is money that is going back into the board's pot and can be used for additional projects or to cover the Tokay High 1 site improvement work. Sorry, I had to try that.
Thank you.
Thank you, President.
Any comments from the board? We're okay. So your
I move we
motion.
approve.
So are we moving to approve that? I
All
think.
3?
All.
Which ones are you?
Michelle had a question.
Yeah, I'm gonna get 9, 10, 11, and
15, 16.
15, 16. And 17 I
And
also,
17.
and 17.
However,
Michelle has a, go ahead, Michelle.
I think you need to vote each one.
Independently, okay. First, Michelle has a comment. Come on up.
Thank you. For 11 and 17, they are both on the Needham site, and the question has to
Hold
do...
tight. Can we vote on 9 if you're doing 11 and 17?
we have to prove them.
Stay right there, don't move.
Absolutely.
I
Okay.
move we approve K9.
Okay.
President McFarland, I have a comment.
Yes.
$1.5 million back into the fund, 1.75. All right, call me a liar for $225,000. This 250. That's why I'm a lawyer now, that they tell it, right? So, this is amazing. We haven't opened a new classroom in this district in 10 years. And now, after the Christmas break, we're opening 120? 98. 98. Including Needham? Including the Needham classrooms. We still have some buildings to finish as well. And when we finish those, how many classrooms will we open before spring break? Approximately 6 more, I'd say. So we will open over 100 new classrooms in between 2021 and 2022. And these are new state-of-the-art facilities for our students. They are safe. They are secure. We're getting rid of the portables, and we have this beautiful teaching gym that we were able to view before. This is no small accomplishment, and this was put together by the voters and demanded, and that you're doing this and coming under budget and ahead of time is no small feat to this district and you, Mr. Khan. So congratulations to everyone involved. And I'm clearly going to be supporting all these measures. Very, 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 very great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freitas. I now lost where we were at. You seconded it, so no, so we're calling for a vote. Mr. Freitas threw me off my game. Yeah, which does it?
Student vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, student vote. I apologize.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And it passes 7-0. Moving down the line, I think, Michelle, now you get to come back.
We need to do 10.
Oh, we need to do 10, I apologize.
I move we accept 10, 810.
Yep, thank you. Second?
Second.
Student, any comments? Nope. Student vote?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Board vote? A10 passes 7-0. A11. Now Michelle gets to come back. Welcome.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, my phone is dying, it's not loading. I believe one was notice of completion and one was a modification.
Final change.
Thank you. it's my understanding that Needham is not complete. So could you explain the order that it's complete when I'm being told it's not finished? And I know there was a leak and water damage and it was covered under warranty, and at a time that works with the schedule, they're going to come back and redo the roof. So is that part of the completion or the part of the change order? And do we have an estimate as to how long does that warranty then last, since it was faulty construction on the roof? Through the president, if
I would appreciate if we keep our answers directly to the project, which is the specific question is it complete or is it not? But if it requires a lengthier conversation, then I would encourage that to be a private.
I can answer very quickly. This is increment 2, the classroom building. It is complete. That is the function of a notice of completion and a final change order. Notice of completion's board statement that the project is complete. Final change order finalizes all the money on the project for both the board, its community, and also DSA. Ms. Organ is referring to Inc. 1, which is the site work, asphalt and that type of thing, and then also Inc. 3, which is the NPR room, which is ongoing at this time.
Got it, that answers. Does that answer your?
so are you saying that the construction is complete on the rooms that leaked and are damaged and are needing more construction?
It is complete, but the warranty work still needs to be done.
Okay.
So, does that make sense?
Yes, I'm just surprised that we're saying.
What I'm hearing is loose ends. There are
Yes.
things that have to be corrected.
And I'm surprised that we're saying it's complete when it hasn't been finalized, but I think I have clarification for others now on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I move approve 811.
Second.
Mr. Nava and Mr. Connexted, let's call for the student vote. Aye.
Aye.
And the board vote. It's thinking. A11 passes 7-0. A12, we did A12, we did A13, and A14, we are at A15.
Move 815, please, pass.
Student vote?
Aye.
Yes. Board vote? A15 passes 7-0. A16,
I move we approve A16.
can I do 16, 7, and 18 together, or would you like them?
One at a time.
Mr. Nava spoke. A16.
Second.
Thank you. I listened to Mr. Nava. Student vote?
Aye.
Yes. Board vote? A16 passes 7-0. A17.
I move we approve A17.
Second.
Student vote?
Aye.
Oh, aye. Don't mess up Mr. Nava's comments. Board vote? Board approves A17, 7-0. Last item, A19.
I don't see an A19.
I mean A18. I'm
I
sorry.
think we approved that.
Did we do it?
Yes.
Geez, thank you.
It was part of the first- oh, yes.
Pulling all these items.
Goodness gracious, not only did I have that.
Maybe you could pull more next time.
Tom, please call me the next time you're gonna pull an item, okay? I'll screw you in.
Okay, thank you.
They were
Consent,
already approved. Jeez.
consent agenda B, student discipline cases.
Mr. President, I move we approve consent agenda B, student discipline cases.
And a second, anyone?
Second.
Gary, okay. Any board comments? Any public comments? And there was no student vote on this one, so board vote, please. And the board approves all consent agenda B 7-0. Other action items. Item OAI1, Resolution 2022-7, calling for state officials to recommend and not require the COVID-19 vaccine for students and staff. Dr. Washer.
Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board. This is the item that you discussed as a report item at the previous meeting. It's brought back to your consideration for action.
Ms. McFarland, I move we approve this resolution since we discussed it the last time and we don't need to spend any time on it.
Point of order.
1-1.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Heberly has seconded it, but Mr.
Point of order.
Yes.
Would you mind reading the resolution as it stands? Because where you presented it last time, there was not a lot of acceptance of that verbiage anyway. Could you read where it is today? Or is it the same?
It is the same resolution, sir.
Oh, then I encourage you not to vote for it. It doesn't do anything.
Mr. Porter.
Yes, I stated myself pretty well on the last time. I think this has been outside our purview, and it's also costed us money because we had an attorney here for the entire time at our last board meeting. It is just not necessary. I'll be abstaining in my vote. I think it's something that is just completely superfluous and does nothing for the students or the parents or the families or the teachers or the administrators here at our school district.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. We did board comments, public comments. I believe we got your comments. Student comments? None? No. Okay, we're going to call for student vote.
Aye.
And board vote. We have a pass with 6-1 with 1 abstained. Moving on, OA2, AB 1200, documents for Lodi Unified School District Employee Group Supervisors. Mr. Khan.
Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. This is a statutory requirement to notice the public of any and all bargaining agreement settlements. This is the settlement for the Lodi Unified Supervisors Group. Approximate the 5.07 amounts to a little under $5,000 per year on top of current employee cost. I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Board comments?
Motion approved.
Second.
Great. Any public comments? Student comment? Student vote?
Aye.
Board vote? And OAI2 passes 7-0. Moving on to OAI3, ratification of the tentative agreement with Lodi Unified Supervisory Group. Mr. McKilligan is not here.
Your approval of the TA.
Thank you. Board comments?
I move we approve.
Second.
Thank you. Any public comments? Student comments? Nope. Student vote?
Aye.
Board vote? Board approves OAI3 7-0. Moving on, OAI4, ratification of the memorandum of understanding with Lodi Unified Supervisory Group. Mr. McKilligan is not here. Dr. Washer?
Same group, different document.
I move we approve the OA14.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Mr. Porter, thank you. Any comments from board, public, or students? Okay. Student vote?
Aye.
Board vote? OAI4 passes 7-0. Moving on to OAI5, approval of resolution 2202 for the hiring of short-term classified employees.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve OA15.
Thank you, Mr. Nava.
Second.
And thank you, Mr. Knexted. Any comments from the board, public, or students? No comments. I'd like to student vote. Have student vote. Thank you. Board vote. OAI 5 passes 7-0 votes. OAI 6, provisional internship permit and approval. Any
Mr.
comments?
Chairman, I move we approve that resolution OA16.
Any comments? Student vote. Board vote. And OA16 is it? I thought it was I. I've been saying I the whole
Aye.
time.
I think it was aye.
OAI, okay.
OAI.
You mean I might have been right on that one, Mr. Nava? It approved 7-0. We'll go with that.
The president's
Oh.
always right.
Yeah. Or at least that's what you say to my face, right? OAI 7, Technology Services Reorganization Proposal. Mr. Khan.
Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. If I may, I'd like to pull this and bring it back next meeting. Director Holbert was unable to be with us tonight.
Perfect, thank you. Do we need to vote? We do not need to vote on that.
You could vote to table it to the next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move we table this to the next meeting, OAI 7.
And Mr. Heberly seconds it. Call for a vote. Do we need to call for a vote?
Yeah,
Can we just,
let's do it.
yes, okay, let's do it.
We're on a roll.
Why not? We're voting to table.
Yes.
And it passes 7-0. OAI 8, Resolution 2022-13, electing to be subject to the Public Employees Medical and Hospital Care Act at an unequal amount for employees and annuitants with respect to a recognized employee organization 007 JSCS Joe Serna Charter School. Mr. Khan.
Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. This resolution is requisite to establishing the eligibility of non-certificated CERNA employees to choose CalPERS health plans. It does not establish any Joe Serna contribution to those plans. As such, it is merely the permission of the board for Mr. Viaponda to begin negotiating with the staff and establishing a health plan for them.
Thank you, Mr. Khan.
So,
Questions from the board?
so that means they're just going to buy into the program, is that basically what you're saying?
Yes, sir. They cannot participate in the CalPERS health plan unless they are their own group. This establishes them as a group only.
I second it.
Any, oh, thank you, Gary. Mr. Connect said motions and Mr. Nava seconded. Any comments from board, public, or students? Student vote.
Aye.
Board vote. OAI 8 passes 7-0. Personnel matters. Oh, he's not here.
I move we approve personnel matters.
But I really like the statement that he
He's, oh,
does.
well, he's not available, so why wait till 9 o'clock?
Okay.
Personnel matters are approved for your consideration.
Close.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have a motion from Mr.
Yes.
Nava
Yes, ma'am.
and a second from, is that Mr. Freitas at the end that just motioned that or seconded that?
With a brief comment, some of our favorites are retiring this year. We have Mr. Funge, Deborah Ladwick, some really great employees. So we wish them all well in the retirement, and hopefully we'll have some type of ceremony that we can all honor them.
Thank you very much. Yes.
I do want to recognize some of the people that are retiring in their
Is now in the conference.
Oh, there you are. And their contributions to the district. Obviously, I don't know them all, but the ones I do know have a great reputation as employees of the district, and I wish them well in their retirement.
Thank you, Mr. Heberly.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I looked at that list, and there are a lot of good people that are bailing out on us. And they've been around a while. It was Leon Atwater. I know him as Judd Atwater at Lodi High School. Jackie Heinrich at Lodi High School. I've worked and coached and been involved with those folks a long time. And man, I mean, they deserve their retirement, but I'm sure sorry to see them go. And I was happy to see we did pick up at least one speech and language pathologist that we're in desperate need for. But I move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Knecht. And I would also like to wish them all well on their new adventures, and we hope that they would like to come back to us in a substitute capacity, or maybe re-enter as teaching something different.
There you go.
Moving on. We have to vote. I apologize. Board vote.
Did you get a comment?
Yes. Mr. Nava and then Mr. Freitas.
With a comment.
With a comment. And let me go back. I just turned the page too quickly. Personnel matters approved, 7-0. Moving on to report items. We're going to need a minute. Valerie, let me know when you're ready.
I think someone just called on, I can help.
Okay.
Jacob or the two Bills, are you guys on?
Jacob Gomez is now in the conference.
Bill Schutz, are you there?
I am, Leonard. Hello.
And is Bill Tunick joining us?
No, it's just gonna be me, Bill Schutz.
All right. President Carlin, we're ready when
Great.
pleases the board.
Where this item is on revised trustee bound area, the map presentation, Mr. Conlon?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Joining us are Jacob Gomez from the firm of Davis Demographics and Bill Schutz, partner with Dennis Wallover and Kelly, the board's attorney, or one of the board's attorneys. Pursuant to the 2020 election, it was requisite of the board to undergo a trustee boundary assessment. These are complicated matters. I won't even pretend to be able to describe it. That's why we have Mr. Gomez from Davis Demographics, and then, of course, Mr. Schutz is here for any and all board legal questions related to it. We're going to have Michael present the PowerPoint, Jacob.
Okay.
And if you would just give Michael what page or what slide of however many slides you're on, and Michael will get us there. Okay, without further ado, Mr. Gomez from Davis Demographics.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes. Yes, thank you.
Yes, perfect. Okay, awesome. All right, so good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. Again, my name is Jacob Gomez, here on behalf of Davis Demographics and Planning. And what we're going to be talking to you guys about today is the review or the current trustee area and how the release of the 2020 census data may have affected your trustee areas. So jumping to slide 2. In order to talk about this transition, I first want to go back a little bit and talk about when the district first transitioned to bi-trustee area elections. So in order to transition, the district brought on board another demographer. It wasn't myself or my firm, it was another demographer. And what they did was they downloaded some background data. And what that data was the 2010 census data. And what that's used for is to overlay the district boundaries. And when the district boundaries are overlaid, the district is then, the demographer is then required to create proposed trustee areas. And one of the main guidelines for those proposed trustee areas is to have equal population between each trustee area. And again, that all related back to the 2020 census. So now, what Education Code 5019.5 requires us to do is that with the release of every decennial census, to take a look again at the trustee areas and make sure that each trustee area with the new census population is still equal, each trustee area is still equal in population. So that's what we're here to do today, is to look at that new data and see if our current trustee areas, are they still in compliance? If they are in compliance, then no further steps are required. But if they're out of compliance, we then have to ensure that we're bringing back that population balance by adjusting some of those boundaries. Again, with that new 2020 census data, and with the new 2020 census blocks. On to the next slide, please. So again, a quick little background again into Education Code 5019.5 is again, it's required that at the release of every decennial census, that we review these trustee areas and again, make sure or achieve population equality as nearly as is practicable. So what that last part means, as nearly as is practicable, is that we want to bring equal population between each trustee area. However, we are allowed some quote-unquote wiggle room. We're allowed about a 10% variance from the largest trustee area to the smallest trustee area. So we're allowed equal population with a little bit of wiggle room there with about 10% from each trustee area. Again, this is all based off of the total population, not citizens, not voters, but the total population within the district, and then that's divided up by our 7 trustee areas to give us a target number. Now, all this review and the approval of the next trustee areas, all must be done and submitted to the county by February 28th of 2022. Next slide is some tasks, some quick tasks. What are we here? What am I here for? What am Davis Demographics supposed to do in this process? And that, like we mentioned, is recreate the trustee areas. Recreate them based on those 2020 census numbers and census blocks, and again, determine if we're in compliance. If we are not in compliance, if we're out of compliance, then we will create and prepare some scenarios for board review, consideration, and approval, and again, back to having all that data ready and completed and approved by February 28th of 2022. So we're almost there, about a month and a half remaining. We have 2 scenarios to present to you today, but if we go on to the next slide, we'll look a little bit more at what we're talking about and what we're viewing. And this slide here represents the current trustee areas. How the current trustee areas fall, and again, lined up with my table or my chart of the new population numbers. So the first thing I want to look at is the total population line in that chart. So within the district, based on the 2020 census, our total population was 179,721. So in order to have equal population, that target number for each trustee area is going to be 25,674. And like I mentioned earlier, we're allowed that 10% variance. So when I recreated the trustee areas with the new data, we found that the district variance is now at 11.5%. So that puts the current trustee areas out of compliance. If we look at the numbers a little closer, trustee area 5 is one of the smallest trustee areas with 6.3% under our target number. And then one of our larger or a higher number trustee areas is going to be trustee area 6 at about 5.2%. And then again, the difference between the largest and the smallest in our current trustee areas with our new data is 11.5%. So we are out of compliance, and that leads us to preparing some scenarios. Looking at some scenarios and taking into consideration a few other tasks in my next slide, slide 6. Again, like I mentioned, each trustee area must be less than 10% between the smallest and the largest. That's my 10% variance. And then keep in mind that this isn't a full redraw. We're not wiping the slate clean and drawing on the trustee areas all over again. We're trying to just bring this back into compliance with the least disruption as possible. And we're also following some federal laws here that require that each trustee area be compact and contiguous. So no gerrymander drawing, and also they all have to be touching each other. They can't be half of trustee area, one can't be on one side of the district and then all of a sudden jump to the other side of the district. They have to be continuous. The next slide is a quick little overview of the census blocks, slide 7. So the gray lines in the picture to the left there, those are all the census blocks that build the district. So these are, if you will, our puzzle pieces. As we're going in to rebalance, these are the pieces that we're moving to bring us back into compliance. And that leads us to our first scenario, scenario A. Scenario A, before we look at the maps, keep in mind that when you're looking at these, the colored polygons on this map The colored polygons are the proposed trustee areas. The red lines there, it's kind of hard to see the red lines in scenario A because there wasn't much change to bring this back into compliance, but the red lines there that you see poking out more between trustee areas 6, 7, and 1, the orange, the green, and the red there, those red lines, those are the current trustee areas. So that's how you can see what areas have been changed. The red stars are where each trustee lives. So you can see, okay, is Plan A or is Plan B or any of the plans moving trustees out of their current trustee area? I know this map. I'm sorry, was there a question?
No, I'm sorry.
No? Okay. So if we go on to the next slide, it's a little better visual of scenario A. It's zoomed in a little bigger and the chart is a little bigger. So I put that on slide 9. And what this scenario does, before we look at the areas that change, let's just look at the numbers, how the population changed. And with this plan, or with this scenario A, this brings our variance down to 8.7%. So this brings us back into compliance. And then again, if you look back at the map, there's just two little areas there that would change between trustee area 7 and 6. And then another little change between trustee area 1 and 6. In this scenario, in this plan, trustee area 5, we're still at 6.3% under our target. And then one of our larger areas, trustee area 7, as well as trustee area 2 at about 2.4%. So again, the difference between that largest and the smallest is about 8.7%. Again, bringing us underneath the 10%, bringing us back into compliance with this first scenario. Next slide, please, slide 10. Now what slide 10 is, I did a closer look, right? A closer look, a zoomed in aerial visual of the census blocks that were changed. So you see in this map or in this screenshot here, those red lines, those red hashed lines, those are which areas were what. So if we first look at in District 7, those red blocks there were once trustee area 6 and have now been moved to trustee area 7. Now if we look over to trustee area 1, those 3 blocks there were once trustee area 6 and have now been moved to trustee area 1. And those 2 changes there is what brought us back into compliance. So scenario A really followed that as little change as possible to bring us back into compliance. Next slide, please. Slide 11 is scenario B. Now what I did with scenario B is I brought us back into compliance. There's still those same changes that were in scenario A, but what I also did to adjust is I moved some more census blocks here, and what I did with this one was bring that variance closer to 0. So I really tried to balance the population here a little more. And this now scenario, this scenario B, has our variance at about 4.5%. So again, a lot closer to that 0. And if we go to the next slide, please, slide B, or scenario B, slide 12, we see a bit of better picture of the proposed areas here, and as well as the statistics. But in this plan, the max variance again is 4.5%, and one of our largest areas now in this plan, trustee area 7 at about 2.4% over our target. And then our smaller one is we have to go back over to trustee area 2 at about 2.1% under our variance or under our target. So again, this scenario here was really more to balance that population a little better and bring us closer to that 0 variance. In this scenario, trustee area 4 gained quite a bit. It gained some areas from trustee area 2. So trustee area 2 lost a few census blocks there and went to trustee area 4. And then trustee area 5 expanded a bit as well and took from trustee area 4. And like I mentioned, those same changes that were made in Plan A between trustee areas 7, 6, and 1 were carried over in Plan B as well. My next slide, please, slide 13. Slide 13 is another zoomed in view of those areas that changed. Again, the first picture to the left there is the same carryover from Plan A. And then we can look at my next 2 pictures there, or my next 2 screenshots are the census blocks or the areas that changed for the other trustee areas. So again, a more zoomed in detailed view so you can see some more streets in the area a little clearer with these screenshots here. Next slide, please, slide 14. Now, one thing that we looked at during the initial transition to by trustee area election is to create some of those, or to maintain some minority majority areas. So areas within the district where minorities had a higher voting power. So what we also looked at is we compared our current trustee areas, we saw where those pockets were, if you will, and we wanted to preserve those in these plans. So you can see in option A and option B, those minority majority areas kept the same. They're still about the same. I didn't expect these to change much when looking at the plans, because if you go back and look at some of those plans, there wasn't major change to any of these plans. So those numbers, those CBAP, those citizen, and keep in mind that in these tables here, this isn't total population, but it's a reference to citizen voting age population. So the voting age population within the area. And again, it's keeping that voting power with some of those minority classes. With that being said, the next slide is now, those are our two plans, our two proposed plans for trustee area redistricting. And now I'd like to open it up to any questions. Mr. Schultz, if you have any closing comments you'd like to make, please feel free. If not, any questions or comments from the board?
That was my question also.
Thank you. This is Bill Schutz, counsel at Gas Oliver Kelly. Just wanted to highlight that this is a process that, for the most part, isn't dictated. We don't have the same steps as when you convert from a at-large to a by trustee area. So we're having this process to take public comment tonight, but we do have to take action in time so that we can meet that March 1st deadline. As mentioned earlier, the demographer would be giving notice to the county committee on redistricting that we've done this, but it doesn't require any approval by them for this process. And then notice would go to the register of voters so that info can be updated for elections. But I think that's all I have to so far.
Great, thank you so much.
And Bill, I want to build one more thing off that just clicked, is if we go past that February 28th or that March 1st deadline, that now takes the power of creating scenarios and creating the trustee areas away from the district, and the actual county will go in and make those adjustments themselves without any consideration to the district. So keep in mind that our goal here today, or not here today, but during this process, is to keep that within us, within the district, and review these scenarios, talk about these scenarios, and eventually again pick and approve one of these that we have proposed.
Okay, yes.
Okay, well, so you gave us two scenarios. I get why we have to do it, I understand that. Which one is recommended by staff and or folks doing this study?
Jacob, if I may, if I can summarize, basically the plans before the board are one that has very minor changes and is very quick and easy. The other creates more of a balance. I certainly, from what I've read, wouldn't call the more of a balanced one an egregious, massive change relative to the minor change of the first one. Would you agree with that summarization, Jacob?
Yes, I would. Yep, okay. Exactly. You're right on point with that.
So really up to the board, but the recommendation would be to go with balance.
The balance, Mr. Leonard,
yes, sir.
Would be A or B. The most balance would be B because of the variance of 4.5, but the 8.7 variance, which is A, is in compliance also.
Yes, sir.
And my understanding is that's what the one you recommend.
I'm recommending the greater balance, which I think is scenario B. Jacob?
Yes, it is. Scenario B brings that variance, let me see. Scenario B brings a variance to 4.5%.
Right.
And looking at scenario B, we have the largest trustee area in this scenario at 2.4%, and then the smallest at 2.1%. And if we look at scenario A, our variance here is 8.7%, and the largest scenario, or the largest trustee area here is 2 and 7, and they're both at 2.4%. And then our smallest one here is trustee area 5, and they're 6.3% under our target goal.
So the recommendation
I
would be-
like the balanced one, which is scenario B. Makes it more balanced than any other one.
I agree. Any other board comments?
I agree with Mr. Mel.
I'm hearing agreeing. Mr. Freitas, you look like you were going to.
Yeah, I'm perplexed because all the maps, the current scenario, and A and B have McNair in area 7. And McNair's been my school in area 6.
Oh,
So you're concerned about yourself right now, is what I'm hearing.
Well,
There's only 4 high schools.
I didn't even get one in area 1. I got all elementary and middle.
so
I want to tell Mr. Freitas that
have I been mistaken? McNair is not in area 6 school?
on these scenarios it won't be.
So that's a pretty major redistribution.
Jacob, do you want to comment?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that question. Can someone repeat that, please?
Mr. Freitas is questioning why McNair moves to area 7, trustee area 7, when it is currently in his area in trustee area 6.
Again, that's where it fell when we redistrict, when we had to bring in the new population. That was one of the areas that had enough population to move and to bring us back into compliance.
Right, but the original map shows it already in area 7 to begin with. Your current trustee area shows it in area 7. Is that correct?
Jacob, did you hear that?
Are we talking about a school site? Is that what you mentioned?
Ronald McNair High School, yes.
Ronald McNair High School is at the end of Aranda Lane on the west side of West Lane. In both the current trustee area map and in the redrawing, it's not reflected as being in area 6, it's being area 7.
Oh, okay, I see. McNair High School. Okay, I might have to take a look at that and get an updated address for that school site. And we may need to adjust that. But from my previous records, that was the site. Again, it might have changed. I don't know. I don't remember when we last updated the school sites. But I think at the next meeting, I could come back and give a clear answer when I kind of take a look and I'm able to dive in a little bit more at that location of the actual site itself.
Is that acceptable, Mr. Freitas?
Me losing McNair High School is not acceptable at all.
Got it.
And I first off, there's no homes around there, so it can't affect the population bases. And I've been the trustee of McNair High School for 9 years. I have a relationship with the students, I have a relationship with faculty, I have a relationship with parents. And I don't know why it's not included in the map as it is. And if it's not drawn correctly to begin with, I have concerns about the entire process, quite honestly. So.
Okay, any other additional comments from the board?
Do we know what other schools are changing districts?
Yeah, but I believe I looked at that, and Adams Elementary School was one, as well as Lakewood.
Lakewood would go to area 5.
And Adams would go.
Right, Lakewood would go to area 5, and then Adams would go to area 1.
I think Adams went to area 1 8 years ago.
Say that again, I couldn't hear that one.
Adams went to area 1 8 years ago.
That would be the one I marked here to check location.
So what I'm hearing is that we have some clarifications to seek, Mr. Khan.
Yes, ma'am.
And then once we get those clarifications, maybe we can bring this back to the board for review?
It'll come back on the 4th, yes.
Great, thank you. Any other comments from the board? Any comments from student reps? Nope. Any public comment? Thank you, President McFarland. For clarification, the new home construction is not being considered at all under this because it was not, those people were not in those homes necessarily during the census where all the construction is. So we're probably looking at redrawing again with all the brand new construction that's happening would be thrown off. After the next census. Correct. So it could be a skew in population because of all the new home construction. Is that correct? Correct. Okay.
Every 10 years.
Every 10 years it would be a skew. It would be in process and correct. Okay. Any other comments or concerns?
Thank you, Jacob and Bill. I'll be in touch.
Great.
All right, thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
No, they're going to bring it back.
Has left the conference.
Okay, next up is
Jacob Gomez.
Has left the conference.
I feel like we're in a video game. Does anyone else feel like we're in a video game? Presentation of Lodi Unified Student Performance Data. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening, President McFarland, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. Uwe Dahlman is here to present briefly to you the results of our state testing from last year. Annually, with the exception of 2020, the board has seen a report typically around October 1st-ish, but it took this long for the state to release data this year, in part due to the many concerns and challenges with testing last year. The data you will see, I caution you to take with a large grain of salt. The data is what the data is. The test was actually new. It was revised from prior years and shortened. The test in some cases was taken in place on campus, and in some cases it was taken over distance learning. Some districts didn't take the test. They took a locally benchmarked test. So comparing schools to schools and districts to districts is, to say the least, almost an unnecessary task. So, but for what it's worth, we do want to report the data to you because it did go public a week and a half ago. If anybody's interested in looking up a particular district, a particular school, it's on the CDE's Data Quest website, and you can search to your heart's content. Mr. Donovan.
Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. First slide, please. Next slide, thank you. So we've provided the results here for the Smart Balance Assessment. This is for English Language Arts. We provided the last 3 years of data that we have. Again, we are providing the prior two administrations not to suggest any kind of longitudinal study, but we realized the board would probably be wanting to know how things were previously. So the prior 2 years are really more here for context. We've finished off the year, it looks like, I can't see too well, from back at 36.71% for the entire all grades combined. And this would be for students who are meeting or exceeding the standards. Next slide, please. And we have the same type of analysis for math, finishing at around a little over 24% meeting or exceeding and above. Next slide. Then we've done the analysis trying to show how that compares a bit to the county and state. Again, the prior 2 years are just for context. You'll probably notice that we were above the county in the prior two administrations, and we're now below. I want to keep that plate spinning for a little bit. I will get back to that in just a minute. We'll move on to the next slide and take a look at math. Again, we see the same pattern here, slightly above. Prior to administrations, now slightly below.
All right, so let's move on to the next slide, and I'll say why we probably might not want to read too much into that, and that has to do with participation. And here you'll see these are the dramatic changes in participation that occurred this past administration compared to the prior year. So we lost about well over 3,300 students for English language arts and 3,400 students in math. Now what's interesting is that this represents roughly around a 22% loss in participation. If we compare the numbers for 2019, our participation at that time was about 19%. So we contributed to roughly about 19-20% in terms of all the scores for Smarter Balanced in San Joaquin County in that year. We lost 22% participation rate this past year, but our scores now, we contribute to 1/3 of the scores in the county. So even though we had a dramatic drop in participation, the county itself took an even larger drop, over 50%. So again, that's why trying to compare even to the county and the state is very problematic. Moving on, the other pieces of information that the CE deemed valid for us to go ahead and report would be the graduation rate, four-year cohort graduation rate. So we provided that here again the last 3 years. Show you how that looks against the county and state. And then to disaggregate that by our significant subgroups as well, so you can kind of see the graduation gap as it has occurred over the last 3 years. Next slide, please. We have chronic absenteeism rates, and again here the problematic issue is the pandemic, how it affected attendance, distance learning, all of those things. So again, it makes it very difficult to compare to prior years, but again we wanted to provide the past 2 years for context. And then we have that broken down by the our significant ethnic subgroups as well. Suspension rate, again, here we have the issue of, obviously students not being on campus for a good part of the year, and so, again, having very difficult to compare to prior years, but they are there for context. We have the district and county and state, and then we've provided that information disaggregated by the primary ethnic groups as well. So kind of in summary, we have so many factors. We have the issue of the different methods of testing. We have participation rates dropping dramatically. We have the fact that the test, the multiple choice portion of Smart Balance was reduced by about 50%. The participation rate was waived, and so we had significant drops in participation. We had issues with remote testing. That really impacted things quite a bit. The state did not deem that 2019-20 was valid in terms of reporting for chronic, so that's why that wasn't presented. And so as we move forward, final slide, we do, the participation rates will be reinstated. Our challenge is going to be working against what happened this past year to reinvigorate participation as we move into the new year. We also, the dashboard, we're not reporting on the dashboard this year because that has been suspended, so we're just providing the information as it exists on Data Plus. So with that, are there any questions?
Great, thank you. Board members, any questions?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Heberle.
President Parlin, I have a comment when you're ready.
Oh, okay, go ahead, George.
Go ahead, George.
Okay, first of all, the question is that what value do you see in this data? I mean, it's so skewed, it's not, we didn't have everybody taking it. My understanding was it was a modified test also, is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, I've got data for student performance for this district. It goes back prior to 2010. And I like to keep a running total and kind of see where we're going on it. I don't see where this does us much good, other than what we already knew, and it's everybody suffered because of COVID. Everybody suffered because of the distant learning. Is there anything you can take away from this other than that?
We ask that you skip this one in your data documentation and wait for next year. Mr. Neely, thank you for the question. Greatly appreciate it. Dr. Solly and Mr. Dahman are deferring to me because they've heard my spiel about this many, many times. This is not a reflection on any teacher, on any school, on what any child can do. I know that it is discouraging for folks at the school site to see this kind of data, but this is not a reflection on work, it's a reflection on a health pandemic. And our suggestion would be that we take it as that, use it as good information moving forward, but that's the extent of it.
Thank you, Dr. Washer.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm trying to get at. Now, this coming year, are we looking at getting back to some type of normality for the testing, or is there still going to be, well, I guess here I am asking you to predict the future and what the virus is going to do, but are there plans right now to go back to a normal type of testing?
The reduced form of the test that occurred last year will be kept the same for this year, so that will allow us to do a better comparison, but it will be a reduced form of the test. The participation rate will, the requirement for the 95% or higher is reinstated, and so the idea is for things to move almost back to normal. The provision for doing remote testing will remain as well. So we're going to have that mix. So almost.
Okay. I'll make a statement now, and I don't expect you to respond. But I want to let you know that I believe that we should be looking at alternative ways in order to do assessments, perhaps our own benchmarks or something like that, just to try to gauge student performance increases. I'm going to be coming in and talking to you about that as soon as I can. And maybe you can kind of be prepared for that question. Now, is there something that we can do on our own? We wouldn't be able to compare to everybody else, but we can compare to our own performance. Okay? And that's all I've got. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Neely. I believe Mr. Heberly or with Mr. Porter? Okay.
I was going to make the same point that Mr. Neely and Dr. Washer made about the current scores. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it was page 4. Can we go back to page 4? Maybe 3. Yeah, that's it. So on some of these, the slides, it says 2018, 2019, and then 2021. But on some of the other ones, it says 19, 20, 21. So let's see here. The school year of 2019-20 is when it was suspended. Okay. So kind of what I'm looking at is 2018 scores. And so because of all the problems in this last one, and there are so many variables, I agree that it is definitely problematic looking at those scores. But 2018 should be pretty clean numbers, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So being as, quote, clean as they are, math, that's pretty dismal. I think that's disgusting and embarrassing. That's one of the things about math that I have been talking about for a long time, is math is one of those, we talk about English language arts, and we talk about kids needing to learn to read by the 3rd grade. Oh, I absolutely agree with that. But the other key element that holds kids back is mathematics. And that is another language, I guess. So I'm looking at 2018, skip 19, 20, 21, okay? We'll get a new batch of that stuff come the next year. But 2018, we need to remember those numbers, and we need to figure out what we're gonna do to make those better, because they're just not appropriate. Those numbers are not percentages in my head. Those are children that need help with math. And that's my point, and I think that that is an important goal that we should start focusing on also. Take away anything, but we need to figure out what in the world are we going to do with math. And seeing as how I'm not the leadership of the district, in the down and dirty getting things done, and how and why and when, that's something that I really think we should bring forward. Thank you.
And Mr. Oh, you know you can leave, correct? Yes, yeah, she's, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Porter.
Yeah, I'm going to chart 2, chart 3. All right. Can you explain to me why grade 11 did so well? Well, not well, did great, good. And then you look down at grade 3 and 4, and we have a huge drop off.
What happened?
Why is there such a discrepancy? When I look at on page 2 there, when you're talking about ELA, grade 11 did better than we did in 2018. Okay? And when you look at chart 3, when you talk about math, we did better than 2018. And then why do you see such a discrepancy? And again, I love data, love to crunch numbers. What happened?
So again, one of the areas, if you drop down a few more slides to the participation, that may say, there you go. So you can take a look at, we did see fairly consistent drop. We really see a huge drop, I shouldn't say huge drop, but we see a big drop in grade 11 and grade 7. So grade 11 took a rather noticeable decrease, almost 700 students. So you're really not testing nearly, we don't have what I would say a representative sample for 11th grade.
My second question kind of hit on that. Did we look at the students that didn't participate and see what type of students they were based on how they did on benchmarks, how their GPA was, to factor that in, because you have everything broken down very, very well, and I love the data. Did we factor that at all?
We have not looked at that yet, but we could very
So
easily.
we've looked into the non-participatory students, and what did you find?
We have not looked into the non-participatory, the students who did not participate. We have not broken that down by demographic or by ratio to normal tested population.
Okay. Maybe how they did in 2018 would give us an idea. Now that factored in, would that be some way to correlate the deviation maybe? I'm trying to think of this in terms of statistics.
Right. Remember, each year we're talking about different students, obviously.
Right.
But so what we're really talking about when we're doing these types of analyses is we're comparing the program. How is the 11th grade program changing over time as different students come in? And so it's been fairly consistent between 18 and 19. And yeah, it seems as an anomaly that we actually increase, but I think part of this has to do again with the fact that we're dealing with probably of all the student groups up there, the one that's most not normally represented, if that makes sense.
Grade 7, that's a big hit as well. Then my last question, because I don't want to bore people, but I look at our chronic absentee rates, which has nothing to do with participation or lack thereof, and we have gone substantially up compared to the state and compared to the county. And that's pure numbers, is that correct?
Correct.
Is there any reason for that you can't? I know you're a numbers guy. individual that deals with attendance or what motivates students to come to school. But it looks like we went up in 1 year, 5% drop between 2 years. 2019 through 2021, we increased 5%, whereas the county only increased 2%.
Well, remember there, we're also dealing with a new way of trying to capture attendance, right? You were trying to see if remote students that, in remote distance learning are logging on or being...
the rest of the county doing that as well?
It would depend, yes. It would, but what I don't know, or we could look into, is the percentage of distance learning students the same across districts across this particular county. It might vary significantly, so maybe if we...
If you look at the state, it only went up 2%.
I'm sorry?
If you look at the state, you only went up 2%.
Right.
We went up 4%, or actually more than that, 4.5%, almost 4.4%. That's the area that I would be most concerned about, or that I am concerned about as a board member, because this reflects on us. We are the ones that set the goals and so forth, how our students do, what we're trying to implement and so forth. I'm not blaming you. I'm not trying to point anything out. You're the data guy, and I love what you've done here. Although you did make a mistake, but I don't want to point it out right now. Or maybe I will. On slide
Here, let me know. I always want to improve.
On slide 8, was it slide 8 or slide 7? I can't remember. Where we had one group not identified at all. There was a line that it wasn't identified. That's okay. Anyway, my point is the absentee rate was somewhat a concern. And I think as a district, we definitely need to look at that. I mean, I know we're held harmless right now.
Right.
But in the future, that might change. I doubt it. And the other thing is this grade 11. And I'd love to see the breakdown of what happened to all the students that didn't participate. Because that might help us as a board look at the data maybe in a different way. And I appreciate Dr. Washington. I had a lot of questions for her and all the information that she got back to me on how we did and so forth. And some of the things we don't want to do. And I love the fact that you pointed out very transparently that on slide 6 that we participated more than any other school district. So our results then could be skewed compared to other school districts in the county because we have more participation. Okay, so I love the fact you pointed that out. That's important. Thank you for your time. I appreciate all the data you put forward.
Any more questions from the board?
I don't have any questions. I have some statements to make.
Excellent, Mr. Nunn.
Correlation between reading and math and English language arts is heavy. If you don't have those people, students reading at grade level, you lose them in the math. Math is, you have to know how to read. You have to know how to read for the English language arts. I think if we had some type of data where we have all these kids that know how to read and are at grade level, and those that are having problems that don't read at grade level, and get those and compare them. Because those are the ones that bring down the math scores and the ELA scores. It has a lot to do with it. I had experience as a youngster growing up. I mean, why don't we do this? Hey, when I go into a math problem, I love math problems, and God, if you don't know how to read this, then you're lost because, math is a concrete subject, and if you don't keep up with it on a particular day, you're lost the next day, and then if you don't know how to read, you're lost the rest of the year. Those are statements I want to make. I think that they're valid, and there's a great correlation between that. We always think about reading the scores in math are low. Of course, they're low all over the state because those people don't know how to read at grade level, so they can, if they did, the scores would be up. And that's my two cents today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. Any other comments from the board? I would just like to say briefly that thank you to the teachers and the administrators in the classroom that weathered the storm with all of this, and I'm sure they're looking at this data, shaking their head thinking, what the hell happened? And so to them, I just want to say, hang in there. We have faith in you. We trust you. And let's throw it out the window and start again. And so I want us to take the information, use it appropriately, and move forward. It's a new year, new day. Hopefully we'll be past some of this sooner and we'll have success. I have faith in our people that are on the ground. Any other questions? Anything else you'd like to say, gentlemen?
I agree, we can find some nuggets of information. I think Mr. Porter is pointing out the 11th grade issue is important to look at, but again, this is not, if you want to measure the amount of effort, blood, sweat, and tears, and just heroic efforts that went place over the pandemic, this was not the measurement tool for that, but this is what the state is reporting out, and so we felt it important to bring it forward. It is public information, but yeah, as I started, the grain of salt you take this with needs to be very large.
Thank you. We appreciate the report. Next up is Mr. McGregor. Does everybody need to stretch their legs? Can we take a... Oh. No, he's already up.
Thanks.
Hold on. Mrs. Organ? Michelle, do you have... I saw the move and then it stopped.
allowed to ask questions?
No, you can make a public comment though.
Thank you, President McFarland. Yes, so I liked, I think it was Mr. Neely who said everyone suffered through this. And I would say that, yes, that is key on many points. I appreciate Mr. Porter's comments about the participation and disaggregating some of that data. I want to point out last year that during testing time that we had students that were opting out of in-person learning. They were virtual learning, and they were forced to come in and test when their parents chose to do distant learning. So we had some anomalies, and then of course we had some students that were in person who opted out. So there were some little hiccups in that made it uncomfortable for everyone and at school sites to try to figure out where do I place the students that are not here every day and try to fit them in a room with less kids and spacing. So there were a lot of little things that happened that shouldn't have happened, I guess, in a matter of speaking. But I want to go back to what the board said the beginning of this year and the beginning of last year with the pandemic. And that was what teachers really needed to focus on was the social, emotional health and well-being of our students. And I think that it sounds like Dr. Washer had talked to you kind of about the same thing, that really the well-being of the child is what's most important right now than, say, a standardized test. And our teachers have been given some tools to work from in this, and we think building better relationships and working with those students on attendance and participation, because as you know, even those kindergartners who are now third graders have not sat and learned how to sit on a carpet and now are sitting in a chair and trying to sit still in a chair when they don't have that inner core strength. We would really hope and appreciate that we move forward towards really the relationships, and that's the way we get them to participate in the reading and the math and attending to the reading. And as Mr. Nava pointed out so eloquently, that the math doesn't come along on that test without very good reading skills. So as we dig a little deeper, we hope that we really pay attention to what is it boots on the ground that every staff member on a site is doing to improve the social emotional and participation on a school site. And as Mr. Sully said, with a grain of salt, this test going forward, but really, what can we measure how they're doing and attaining and participating? Because that's the struggle right now in the classrooms, is how to get those kids to participate that they haven't done. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to that.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. McGregor. Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I didn't see.
Sorry. Lana Gentry again. I had a question, but maybe we'll find out later.
because it was so easy for students to opt out and not take it last year. And I teach AP Psychology and then Government Econ, so I have juniors and seniors all day. And once that went out, that they found out they didn't have to take it, and it was just an easy sign for, I mean, tons of them. And the AP kids especially, they're just kind of like, if they came back to school, we're trying to get ready for the AP test, we've fallen behind, we have been unable to cover all the content, and they just didn't want to take a test. And so the point of like, let's look at who took the test and who didn't, you know, that could come into play. I don't know what happened at the other high schools. Also, talking about the percentage of kids who were distance learning or not, and we're looking at absenteeism, Bear Creek had the highest rate of students who chose to be distance learning. We had over 800 students, almost half of our population stayed at home. And when we returned, it was my AP kids that didn't come back. I was all looking forward to being able to do everything in our activities in person, and I had more than half at home. So they're sitting there on the Promethean board, and I've got here back and forth. And so I don't know what happened with different groups of kids. I just know what happened with the juniors and seniors that I had. And then of course the problems of trying to administer that test. So I had kids in person. So then I'd take somebody else's kids in person, and then they would try to do the test online, and I'm telling my online kids to go to this Zoom, then they come back to my Zoom because they couldn't get in over there. It was a big one. So I'd say the scores are apples and oranges, and there's a lot going on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other comments? Yes.
Is it possible for us to get, since the AP students take the AP test, have we looked at their performance from 2019 and 2021?
Bring that forward.
And see if they were affected as well?
We can get scores.
Mr. Solly?
We'll collect the scores we get from the College Board and report back to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Okay, we're trying it again, Mr. McGurner. He is giving a report on proposed school start times.
Yes. Good evening, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to look at the report. We can go through page by page if you'd like. Okay. Basically, this comes down to SB 328, which requires the school day for high schools to begin no earlier than 8:30 a.m. and middle schools should begin no earlier than 8 a.m. This is beginning July 1st, 2022. I'd like to just give a great big shout out to Mr. Kahn, Mr. Young, and then the Transportation Director, Annette Galindo, who worked very closely to take a look at how transportation could help manage how we're going to have to look at the elementary school sites and the start times that might be affected due to the transportation's effects of the high school and middle school changes. So the burden and the change, falls mostly to the elementary school sites. As it states in the report, 5 schools, elementary schools, were affected by 25 to 45 minutes of change to their current start time. 6 schools will have a daily schedule affected by 20 minutes or less. Again, those are elementary school sites. And then the remaining 21 elementary school sites would retain their current bell schedule. And that's just a huge shout out to Annette Galindo and her staff for working their numbers and their routes and their buses and their staff to see what they could do to minimize the number of changes. So we're really excited that it wasn't there weren't more elementary sites affected. I tried to color code the charts so you could kind of see where which schools were affected and which schools were not. So hopefully that was helpful. But I welcome any questions for myself. Neil and Susan have done a great job working with the elementary staff, especially the students, not the students, but the sites that were affected. And really, I think the principals have done a great job and are communicating well with their constituents to minimize or mitigate any concerns.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor. Any questions? Go ahead.
I do have a concern with the high schools. And ex-coach athletic director, I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yep.
We got to have a plan of what we're going to do with athletes and probably a whole slug of other people who do continually work after school. We're going to start them an hour, 10 minutes later than normal. It means they're going to be getting home much later. It means competition is going to be a nightmare as far as logistics, I think. So I would propose, I'm sure you've thought about this already, but I would propose that before we vote on this next time that you have maybe contact ADs and that kind of stuff and have a plan of how you think what's going to look like. I know we're forced on this, and probably in all the years, this is probably one of the dumbest things I've heard in a long time.
Thank you, Mr. Knackstead. There's no doubt that there's going to be, great effects, and SB 328 is driving the ship, and we've got to adjust to it, and we've engaged the principals and the athletic directors in discussion. There's also been some school sites that have already gone about the change. Through the pandemic, they thought it would be easier to jump forward. There was a school in Manteque, I believe it was the Lathrop High School, and I spoke with their principal and vice principal. And, they said getting the kids back, it was a big change. And I don't know that anyone's real excited about, that they were not excited about the changes they had to make, because it affected a lot of people. But the fact remains, these are the rules that are going to govern, what we're going to do. So I think, one of the things I think each of the high schools is going to have to look at is, especially on competition days, are the students going to miss an extra class or two because they're going to have to depart early depending upon, where they're going to be heading for a particular competition. And it can also affect, as winter sports, you've got 6 teams, sharing a gymnasium. The frosh-off team, the freshman team, the sophomore team, and the varsity team, at both the boys and the girls level, and that's very difficult for athletic directors and coaches to schedule. Is that going to be pushed back a little bit further? And as a former basketball coach, I remember, sometimes starting practices at 7 o'clock. You had the 7 to 9 o'clock spot, and that might have to be pushed back to possibly 7:30 to 9:30. And those are things that I think school sites, athletic directors, administrators, coaches, and even the teaching staff are going to have to discuss and work together to best assist students in, them managing their time and working out a successful.
It's going to be a pain. I'll be anxious to hear what solutions you come up with for this. Oh, man.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. McGregor, at the high school level, have we looked at going 0 through 7 periods?
I think there are some 0 periods that, can be offered. There's talk about that.
Are you looking about doing it at all high schools, or what is staff looking at?
It will depend on what courses can be offered and how they can do that.
No, under 328, are we allowed to have a 0 period?
Yes, that's right.
At an earlier time.
My understanding is there can be, but I believe that's in addition to the regular schedule. But my understanding is that there can be a 0 period.
They allow a 0 period?
Yes.
Okay. I know Mountain House, it starts, and Lathrop, as you said, I've already gone to the schedule. For sports, what they did is they had their varsity games in their minor sports go first.
Okay.
And then frost off on late. But it's ended up a late night.
Yes.
They had start times later, and then with lights and so forth.
And I think, especially, sorry to interrupt, but it's when we come to wintertime and the days are getting shorter, or at least the light is, how are we going to maximize those opportunities to practice outdoors if it is an outdoor sport?
Right. I'm really a big proponent of 0 through 7, and that allows kids to take more classes, takes more classes outside their mainstream, if they so to speak. And I think that's something we need to look at hard as a way to mitigate this also. And this is coming from somebody that was in high school, holy God, 45 years ago. I never took PE. I had an athletic period. And that would avoid a lot of these issues. I went to Santa Clara High School and I never took a PE class. I was in sports and I had practice during that time, which was the last period of the day. Most schools do that. When I came to the Valley and started teaching, I was shocked. A lot of other schools do it. I know Modesto does. And that's something we can look at as well. But I really want to see a push through 0 to 7. Some more electives for kids to take. And of course, we could also look at the athletic period in exchange for having to be obligated to be or adding to their electives. Okay, so thank you for your time, Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Mr. Heberly?
Thank you. Mr. Porter, I was going to bring up pretty close to the same thing. I was going to suggest a 0 period too. I think that would have a little bit of a help for sure. The other one was back in the dark ages when I was in high school, you had 6 period PE, which was the athletic period, where if your sport was in season at that time, you would go start practice at that time, so you didn't have to go quite so late. And it was a great idea. And then if you had to travel, well, it's 6 period PE, so you exchanged your PE for your competition. So that athletic 6 period PE was pretty helpful. Any way we slice this, we're still talking about roughly half of our student population is being affected by this change, even though it may not be so much in elementary as it is in high school. But it's a big deal. And I appreciate the report, and send my thanks to transportation also. How this is going to work, talking to other people at other districts that have done something like this, the after-school programs really make it extremely difficult to accommodate everybody, and I really feel for the high schools having to go through this. So thank you for your report.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions? I'd like to make a quick comment before we take public comment. I want to thank you for the effort you put into this. I do notice that some of the country schools, I would be remiss not to mention that they took a little bit of a hit on elementary. I understand it. It looks better than it did when I saw the first draft, so I do thank you. While we're getting, while we are very concerned over sports, let's remember we're in school for education, and sports are a reason that we hold on to our students. And I think we would be foolish to not think that a large portion of these students are not doing competitive sports. They are practicing much later than 7 or 8 o'clock at night. I've had children in competitive sports, and it would be not inconceivable of me to be picking up a child at Delta Pool at 9:30 at night. So while I like the effort and our concern about the high school sports, let's not forget that these families are also doing additional things that will take them away from home at the same hours. So I appreciate the sports, huge sports fan. It happened in my house year-round, multiple sports, multiple girls. But I want us to remember that families will figure out this will become what we know, and we will adapt to it. And I know all of our families will also. So I thank you for the energy. I am not real happy about all my country school stuff, and we'll talk about that later.
Whose idea was this, Scott?
What's that?
Whose idea was this in the first place?
Governor.
It's been on our books. It's been on our books for quite a while to do.
It's a requirement back there, the legislature voted on and passed it.
You didn't ask me.
Oh, they did.
As a side note, if your children went to Murata Middle, they never have gotten out before 3:20. And so there's many students and schools that understand the bus hustle, as I like to call it. So we're, based on what we have available to us, this is probably the best that we're going to do, and I appreciate the effort. Yes.
I just want to say that approximately 600 students are participating in athletics. In a high school, that's 1,900 approximately. I'm talking about all, they're double in sports, triple in sports, those kind of people, I count those. And it's gonna be a problem. I don't like to talk about the PE period. PE is very important to me. I was a physical educator and I didn't say, hey, well, wait a minute. Let's call this an athletic period. An athletic period, and some of the people that are supposed to take PE are exempt for athletics. So the athletic period is there for them. There you can start your practices. I was an example of that at one time when they changed the schedule at the high school that I taught. We used 6th period as an athletic period. I coached football. The football players were out there at the end of, about the middle of 6th period, all dressed ready to go to work. So there's some solutions that can be made. We can make adjustments also to some of these. We have to make adjustments. Unless we go back to the other stuff, you know, I never was a proponent of this schedule here. And I know George is adamant about it because he has some information and studies in Tennessee that he said, yeah, we should start later because it solves them all kinds of things, you know, the depression of the students and accidents and all that kind. He can tell you about that, but Scotty, you have to do what you have to do, and hopefully that we can please all the students and get the max out of them for their production.
Well, certainly the wheels are spinning in the heads of the high school principals and working hard to, you know, make things work as best as we can for our students.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor. We have a couple of comments.
Ms. McFarland, I'm sorry, before you go to public comment, just so I don't forget, I want to make sure that we're clear on your expectations at this point. Are you wanting this to come back in some form? I don't know that you want to actually take action on start times because there are often adjustments that have to be made and that kind of thing. So I just want to get a sense of what are your expectations? Is it a we get what you have to do, go and do it kind of thing, or are you wanting something else coming back?
I was going to say, I think we understand what you have to do. We're just not content with everything you have to do. How's that?
Okay.
And I'd like, you know, a plan on how we can mitigate this. I mean, it's going to happen. We know all that.
When you say mitigate, Mr. Kennexted, are you talking about how to get children to and from sports, or are you talking about how it's going to affect?
There's a lot of things that have to happen, and I'm hoping that we don't just wait and have coaches decide, oh, this is what you're going to do. We need to have, you know, have some kind of plan on how we're going to be able to do this without having to wait until 4 o'clock to start practice.
So can I make a suggestion that you maybe email your questions directly to Mr. McGregor, and then he can share. He gets it. Okay, Mr. Nada.
Yeah, my point is that the administrations of these schools that are going to experience this will make the decisions there. They're the best people to do it. We're not going to say, hey, well, you can't start there. We have nothing to do with that. It's the administrations, the athletic department, the players or whatever, even the student body, for that matter.
Sure, and they're looking at their overall schedule of classes, and will work certainly as best they can to work with the student athletes programs. But they're well aware of the big picture, and will work on behalf of the students.
I know you will, Scott. I know you will.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor. I think we have 2 more comments, and welcome back.
Hello again. Normally I'm in bed, I'm now wide awake, so here I am.
Can you maybe pull that?
Yep.
There you go. Thank you so much.
Good evening again. My understanding of the law, and I could be completely wrong, was there was no school, no academic school before 8:30, so we can't just stick in another period. Okay, that was my understanding of the law, so something to think about, that I don't think we can just add a 0 period and have kids come at 7:20. That there are other things that can be done during that class, during that time, because doesn't water polo and swim practice before school already? Maybe other sports can practice before school because that's not academic. I don't know. I'm just throwing out suggestions out there. But there are questions for the few of us doing credit recovery. Right now it's 2:30 to 5 o'clock, and now at winter time, by the time we close all down, we're walking out together and it's dark. Does that mean it's gonna be 3:30 to 6? That's, then we're like, well, can we do credit recovery before school? On how's that, it's not a class, but that's a big concern. Because we all kind of were like, no, we don't want to be here in the dark completely at 6 o'clock walking out. I like the idea of, somebody talked about more electives being offered if we did have more periods in the schedule, but more electives means more teachers. And at Bear Creek, we're reducing a social science and English, a math, the 4 core, I'm missing somebody. So, thank you, and a science teacher. So, I teach an elective, and so if I get more kids that sign up for AP Psychology next year, that is one less government econ I am teaching, and government econ is a required class. So I love the idea of electives, but it means that those teachers are teaching them and not the required grad requirements. And then back to the brain science, I know not everyone's thrilled about the 8:30. I am loving it. I have never adjusted to the 7:20 start time. It's just wrong, but I've been teaching in Bear Creek since 1993, so I'll continue on. But the brain science shows kids are awake, less tardies, less absences, higher test scores, and we have room to improve on our test scores. So I think it's going to be a good thing, and at least let's just go at it and make it a positive thing. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
How can you forget science?
You're about that.
The one school that I looked at that looks like it's going to have the biggest impact is Cerna. And I just want to know, and you may not know this, and I'm sure the Cerna administration has addressed this, but is there going to be some before school childcare? Because going from an 8 o'clock start time to a 9 o'clock start time is going to be huge for a lot of parents. That's going to be very difficult, especially parents who work. So that was my big question, was not so much on the high school stuff, but on the elementary, and how that's going to impact parents and what we're going to be able to do to help them out with some of these school changes. Like I said, most of the time I'm looking at them, they're not huge, they're 15, 20 minutes, no big deal, but Cerna was a huge one. And that is a school that I think we really need to look at, making sure we have morning care for children that need to get dropped off early. So that's my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, we have one more comment. Come on up.
Honey, so, that is one of the number one things going forward with our contracts with the city and Parks and Rec is we have the after-school bridge program. Will those hours be extended, or can we flip some of those to the morning where parents need to drop off their kids to get to work earlier? Will we be looking at that? So if we aren't, could we? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions, concerns? Mr. Herbert.
From the last 3 speakers, I think that this is one of those things where the state says, okay, we're going to do this, but they don't drill down to the operational plan. How is it going to work? So all of those points are things that need to be considered, so keep the dialogue going instead of not. So that would be, I guess, my only encouragement is, it's here, we got to make it work. So thank you.
I think as you have questions, I would also contact our assistant superintendents, because they are the ones that are going to be working with transportation and all of the programs on the campuses, and I know they would love to hear from you. Okay. They're nodding yes. Any other comments, concerns? Moving on. Do you have enough direction on that, Dr.
Yes,
Worship?
thank you.
Okay, moving on to Mr. Khan on the governor's state proposal.
Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. As many of you know, school services in-person governor's budget workshop was today. Director Andrews attended. I did not. Many of us in business services are doing the online webinar on Friday. generally speaking, I try not to get too deeply engaged in governor's budget. Really, the pedal hits the metal the closer we get to May revise and then beyond. In 11 years of doing this, I've never seen a governor's budget actually evolve into a budget. However, May revise on occasion actually turns into what the governor signs in July. However, the general takeaway that I had from discussing this with Director Andrus and also by reading the workshop presentation is there's still a lot of money in the system. And the likelihood of it actually ending up in this district's coffers is real. It will happen. Some of the bigger points, 5.33% COLA is a big number, but even more interesting to me was next year's COLA is projected at 3.61. Typically, we see those things go out for 2% handles every single budget, and they're already jacking these up. Another eye-opener was we all saw LAO's estimate of $31 billion in net fallout from 21 governor's budget. Actual number is 45.7. So these are huge numbers. Of the 45.7, 20.6 billion will go to discretionary spending, and 16.1 billion goes to education. That's obviously now the pre-K, TK, K through 14, and also the universities. Interesting enough, 9 billion will go into reserves or to pay down debt. And in our discussions with our consultants over the last 2 weeks, there's been a lot of buzz about state facilities bonds, which would be phenomenal for this district because the board presently has about $16 million worth of eligibility, waiting for another bond to get issued and then paid into the board's accounts. The hard bet right now is the 10% reserve cap is a reality. Nobody seems to foresee that that's not going to happen. Sorry for the double negative. The rainy day fund and all the four pillars of the rainy day fund will require that the board limit its reserves to 10%. We've discussed with board on prior occasions the idea of a commitment, that is committing money to a future project. Currently in your balance sheet, the big project is to pay down the deficit that will be created by ongoing raises and that type of thing, to sort of smooth out the deficit spending until things balance out. The ADA funding cliff, the thing I personally have been most worried about over the last 3-4 years. Looks like it's not solved, but I'm a lot more comfortable looking at our ADA decline now than I have been at any point in the last 4 years. I know that specifically Mr. Neely and his CSBA cohort argued strenuously, and Mr. Neely and I had several discussions on this, about averaging out ADA over a multi-year period. The governor has given us that in the budget proposal. So districts would have the choice of 3 funding calculations. One that goes off of the current year's ADA. We wouldn't do that, we're down a lot. One off the prior year guarantee, which is existing statute. We wouldn't do that because we're down a lot. Or one off of a 3-year average. The effect to us is currently from prior to the hold harmless legislation, from that point, we're down 1,400 kids. That's anywhere from $15 to $17 million in annual revenue. By averaging that over 3 years period, that takes our net decline in revenue, or relative decline in revenue to about 5 or 6 million. It's a huge difference. Still a negative, but something we can certainly live with. I didn't see this in the presentation, but I might have glanced over the slide. Director Andrus mentioned more money to ELO, but I'm not sure how to describe that. Preschool and TK were big topics of conversation in 2022-2023 school year, next school year. Class sizes in preschool and TK are going down to 12 to 1. So that's going to be a major expenditure. However, with the COLAs, we're going to have enough money to pay for this. However, the COLAs are the only additional unrestricted money that we're getting. It's interesting to me that we're going from roughly the high 90s in Prop 98 guarantee in terms of billions, high 90 billion statewide, to projected 101 billion, and the only thing the school districts get is a COLA adjustment. Now, I don't want to whine too much because in school services dartboard, the average high school student in the state of California will generate roughly $20,000 in base, the grade span adjustment, the CTE add-on, the supplemental concentration. So these are very large sums. I'll bet dollars to donuts they materialize in the 22-23 budget, but there are going to be some expenditure increases as well. STRS is going to jump from 17% to 19%. STRS or PERS is going to jump from 23% to 27% over a multi-year period. Special ed funding, Governor continues to support that. Should mean approximately $1.5 million to $2 million additional special ed dollars to this district every year, so every little bit helps. There's a lot of other things, obviously. I mean, there's 190 slide presentation, but these are the things that popped out to me. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Any questions?
Madam President,
Yes.
quick comment, please. Question, Mr. Khan. Mr. Khan, I believe part of the budget takes the concentration grants from 50% to 65%. That's a proposal anyway, isn't it?
That's correct, sir.
All right, and then I believe that money, you're not calling it unrestricted because it is it's almost a categorical fund that's supposed to be spent on those children that qualify us to receive that money, right?
It's a schizophrenic sum of money. It's booked in an unrestricted account, that being one that begins with the zero resource. But the term rise of the categorical apparently was used in the presentation today, and I think that's exactly what you speak of in this instance, Mr. Neely.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so there's going to be some extra money there. I mean, that's actually quite a bit of money coming in, that extra 15%. But we're going to have to make some plans on where to spend that on those children. Now, it's not, I'm not talking the same as Title I because it's any child that qualifies us to go into that category, that falls into that category, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, so my comment is we need to start working on that. We need to start thinking about what we're going to do with that. It's going to involve additional services for these children. It's going to involve maybe some services for the family so that it'll help these children, that kind of thing. So we need to put some concentration on that. And Dr. Washer, I will be really interested to see what you come up with on that.
Thank you. Me too.
That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Neely. Any other questions from the board? Public comment? You're good? Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Moving on to Title I programs, Dr. Sully.
Good evening, President McFarland and members of the board, Dr. Washer. There's two board agenda items tonight regarding board policy. One is a policy and one is a rule. At our recent federal program monitoring, these were called out as being out of date. And just briefly, the Title I language change alludes somewhat to what Mr. Connor was just speaking to. It clarifies some language that was called base funding. It's changing the language to state and local funding, and it assures or ensures that a district does not change the base funding for a particular site, i.e. the Title I sites, to sort of supplant. So it's just a little bit of a language change to ensure that all sites receive base funding equal whether they're a title site or not. And the policies that we use, we start with the CSBA templates and adjust any local language that we find necessary. But these are, like I said, CSBA templates provided, updated. They generally update as the ed code changes a little bit faster than districts necessarily adopt. But that's the Title I modification. Is really to specify the language around base funding and ensuring Title I funding remains on top of base funding. Any questions related to that one?
So this is basically routine?
Yes, this is an updated, bring us into compliance for the federal program review. This policy, I think, is about 6 years old, so it'll bring us up to date.
Thank you.
The second one, the rule, is the English language document. That is, again, updating some language. There's language currently in our policy that needs to be revised around sheltered English, which now we call integrated designated ELD. There's some other language relating to the LPAC assessment, which wasn't in place when our old policy was adopted. So these are also to update the language and the current reflection of existence of program and to comply with our FPM review. Any questions related to EL?
Dr. Sally, I have a couple of questions. Well, it's more philosophical. If a school or students are underperforming, do you feel that more money should be spent in terms of intervention and so forth at that school?
I believe there should be some additional efforts provided to those individuals.
Okay, very good. And then, well, that pretty much answers my question. Philosophically, you and I are on the same page that sometimes we have to spend a little bit more in areas that need it. Just like in taking care of kids that maybe socioeconomically are way behind others.
Yeah, and the language in our update to the Title I isn't to admit or say we did anything wrong. We're just complying with the language to ensure that by policy we don't supplant, essentially, is basically what it's saying.
No, I understand that, and I appreciate that. I just wanted to emphasize, and I know that you feel the same way, that we are going to do whatever we can to help other kids that maybe be disadvantaged, not because of anything that they've done, but what society has laid upon them. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Any other questions from, yes.
Thank you, President McFarland. Through the chair, and why are we not updating the rule to the Title I policy? Is there any, usually we do those two at the same. Is there no change in the rule for Title I?
There was no change to the rule. And the other piece is that by policy, we'll bring back the policy next week because that's voted on. The rules are basically approved by consent after presentation.
Okay. And for clarification purposes, it's been our understanding that in the past we have taken part of the Title I funds off the top of the pot to help support programs at other sites, My understanding in the past is that part of the Title I pot of money, if you will, we took off, say, 10%, and 10% was used to help pay for some Read 180 teachers at non-Title I sites. It's my understanding, talking to Dr. Solly, that we're not doing that currently. So I think the question of the extra going to other non-Title I schools was just answered, which was a question that we had earlier. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sully. I appreciate that. Next up, and it is 10:15, and I'm going forward to, everyone's looking at me with those mean eyes. Okay, just making sure nobody has an objection. We're moving on to Board Rule 6174, Education for English Learners, Dr. Sully. Oh, I'm sorry.
That was a twofer, sorry.
You did a twofer. I had to excuse myself for a minute, so I didn't realize we were doing a twofer. I apologize. Did you have another question?
Yes, if that was a twofer.
That was apparently it was a twofer.
So
you have the, come on back, you get a twofer too.
I'm sorry, I was like, wait, I thought it was up. So, Dr. Sully just said something about the rule coming forward just for view is approved. It's not necessarily voted on. Usually we see these ahead of time, get to talk, sit, and bargaining units can discuss it. We do understand that some of the ELL stuff is very outdated. However, it doesn't have the policy with it. So the question is, didn't we need to update some of the policy? And I thought that and maybe that's what it was. We did the policy update last year, and then we're just getting to the rule? Because I kind of remember, I thought we already moved this to LPAC, but we certainly want to know how the approval process on this goes, if it just is coming forward and then it's done on the rule. Because I didn't understand that to be the case.
Dr. Washer or Dr. Solly, would either of you want to comment on that?
Well, in my former district, we didn't, we did approve both, but I was informed here that in Lodi, it has been practiced that only the board policy is acted upon. The rules are administrative regulations and subject to administrative oversight and decision making.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to communications from employee groups. Anybody, board member, have anything new to update on employee group? I'm sorry, that was wrong. I was thinking it's 10:15. Never mind me, I was thinking about board advisory committee. Employee group representative.
Thank you. No problem. Good evening, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer, staff, and just a shout out, thank you very much for recognizing the loss of our members tonight, as I was unaware of those, and I'm sure there were others in the community. Also, a shout out to all those members and employees of the district who worked tirelessly right before us coming back to get those test kits distributed, masks rolling out with the new mandates that seem to be like a river fluidly moving daily and changing. I also want to shout out and recognize just a happy birthday to my vice president, who is at the board meeting tonight on her birthday. Thank you, Lisa Wilkins, and happy birthday.
Thank you for the brownie, birthday brownie. That was all I had.
So going forward, we have asked for what our absences of our teachers were this last week, and how many sub-requests went unfilled. We've not heard, and hope that through the board, maybe you would make that request and make that public knowledge as to how many of absences that we have and classes unfilled with teachers or subs. We think that this is an important point to talk about, and talking about strategies as to how we can overcome this. We hope that you had a great discussion before this board meeting about our bargaining session tomorrow, and we look forward to that bargaining session and hope that we can come up with a COVID leave that will help our members. As you heard a couple of members speak tonight, that COVID leave is important for all employees, especially to our teachers who have contract language that affects the retirement and affects the possibility of getting early health benefits through no fault of their own because of their job and being exposed over and over again multiple times daily by students. It is, we think with the money that is there, that this can be solved and everyone can be kept whole and can retire in the time that they need to retire and not be penalized because of the pandemic and not being able to get those benefits. We do know that this has now possibly affected members going forward with their retirement. We did see the long list of retirements tonight on the personnel report, and we want to tell all of those members thank you for their service and duty. But in the next couple of years, those members that end up on any unpaid time due to quarantining or out because of COVID could lose that early health benefits. And some of you I know have benefited from that and how important that is as you retire from a district that you have given so much service to. We hope that you can look at this as a respect and a way to honor your teachers, to reduce this, and they can focus their attention on if they've taken their time for maternity leave, that now they don't second guess coming to school with any symptoms. With bargaining tomorrow, we hope that you see the need for compensation to entice members to teach during your summer school and intervention, and also your after school in a way that they feel valued for giving up more and more time to help bridge the gap of students. So we hope that we can see a higher rate of pay for summer school, ESY, after school programs, intervention, in future with bargaining. We are concerned and hope that, the state, the feds, CDC, and everyone, with the updated changes, that somehow we can have some open communication as to the communications that go out that may be unclear, and that in speaking to bargaining units, we can be a buffer and have some dialogue before messages go out on a Friday or before a break or before a holiday, and members are unsure what to do. So we hope that we could open more clear dialogue before those go out, but know that they are ever changing and ever so fluid, and know that everyone is trying their best to interpret some of it, and hope that we can continue to have an openness about the changes, and maybe we can include bargaining units in that dialogue, because I know I'm not alone in some of the frustration of trying to decipher it without dialogue. Thank you very much for your time tonight, and we're on our way to third quarter, and lots of students are out, lots of families are out, and we want to do the best we can with who's here. but we want to make sure that it's safe. And thank you for making sure that those things are followed as best we can to the policy in making sure that everyone is safe. And we do appreciate the security and the acknowledgement tonight of somebody standing strong for what you did not rule as a rule, someone else did, and you're just following those guidelines, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Any comments from board members?
President McFarland.
Mr. Freitas?
I'd like to, I know this happened a while ago, but it's been since our last meeting. I'd like to commend Reese Elementary for their ACT program. ACT is an acronym for a Community Transformed, and in partnership with Radiant Life Church. Students grades 1 through 6 were encouraged to write an essay about how they can help their community. And from that essay, 14 students' programs were chosen, and they were funded with amounts between $150 and $500. The children gave money to animals, other children, adults, and seniors. Those individuals were in hospitals, the homeless, rest homes, and the military. Gifts included food, supplies, clothing, care packages. And the winner this year was gift bags for children who are being treated at UCD Hospital. This is the 6th year that Radiant Life Church has funded the ACT program and has donated over $20,000 to the community. They like to describe Radiant Life, these children, as superheroes in our community, and I think that they would also qualify as superheroes. Also, Radiant Life provided a $675 gift card to the 59 employees of Reese Elementary. So the ringleader of this, and he's going to be embarrassed that I call him out, is Pastor Robert T. But thank you, Reese Elementary, Radiant Life Church, and everyone for the great work in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freitas, for sharing. Mr. Heberly?
Yes, Dr. Washer, I think Reese School would be a great spotlight for our next meeting. So if, all those children that do that, they do need their day in the sun as a public appreciation. Thank you, Mr. Freitas, for that.
Mr. Heberly took the words right out of my mouth.
So if you think that's possible, I would like to see that done. We just need to make sure that they know ahead of time so people can come. Thank you so much. I did mention it to you earlier, but just a reminder. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heberly. Any other board members?
Yes, Mr. McFarland, I just wanted to concern a little bit, I don't know what the problem is at Bear Creek on the FTEs. I was wondering whether it's enrollment or what's cutting the FTE. I noticed that Mike mentioned 4 FTEs, and then he said his department is deteriorating on some. So could somebody look at that and see what the problem is, please? Secondly, I think this in December, Mr. Freitas, we had a birthday in our board, and that was Miss McFarland.
Yes, it was, and I'm a day younger.
Day younger, yes. So
oh, you're getting even right now, aren't you?
Well, he started it, so he's going to start with happy birthday, sir.
Oh, it'd be my pleasure. So, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, President McFarland. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. I encourage everyone to keep your day jobs.
Thank you.
You don't want that again, do you, Lisa?
No.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Okay, any other comments from board members? Dr. Washer, any last words of wisdom? Board advisory committees, anybody have updates from their board advisory committees? Oh, hang on.
I'd like to thank Dr. Washer and Ms. Von Gier, did I say that correctly? For setting up the meeting with Congressman Cooper and I thought it went very well, even though I stepped in a little late because I had technical problems, and thank you for helping with that. Mr. Freitas was there as well, and Mr. Cooper seems like a very engaged and listened to what we had to propose. And I thought Dr. Washer did an outstanding job of running the meeting and sharing the concerns from our district to one of our local politicians. So thank you for that. That would be the local legislative advocacy.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Any other comments, concerns?
I move we adjourn.
I'm all for it. Meeting adjourned. And we will see everybody back February.